welcome back to the Prospect Podcast. First one of the week. We got a great part two today. We're going to be on right here with our guest, Georgia Miller, once again. As always, I'm Coach Schumann, and to my left, I have Coach D. And we're gonna kind of dive right into it, but I want Georgia to give a little quick background, just a quick summary for anyone who wasn't a part of the first episode, so we can then dive right in from there.
Yeah, well, thank you guys for having me back. Very excited for part two today. As a little reminder, I'm a sports psychology consultant. I have my private practice called Rooted Sports Psychology, and the majority of my work consists of one-on-one with athletes. So I'm working with athletes ages 10 to 25 is kind of the sweet spot. So middle school, high school, and the recruiting process, collegiate athletes, and then helping the collegiate athletes kind of transition into pro. Those are like my specialty ages. And then I'm working with all sports too. So you got your basic ones like football, baseball, golf, basketball, soccer, and then, some random fun ones like badminton and skiing and mountain bike racing. I've had to learn some taekwondo before. So all the fun sports too. And then I'm working with a lot of sport parents as well, especially if I'm working with a 10-year-old, I'm mostly working with the sport parents. I should specify that. And then working with some coaches on implementing sports psych into their daily routines and teamwork. So yeah.
Fantastic. Well, that's great that you brought up the sports parents, because we can dive right into that part of it. When you're working with young athletes and you're working with the sports parents, what are some of the primary issues that you see and that you kind of are really diving more into than ever standpoint?
Yeah, I think a big one that parents are calling me about is the composure piece. So athletes just not being able to really handle their emotions if they're younger. If they're older, I'm getting a lot of my kid isn't motivated. I feel like I'm more motivated than they are. And that's a big one that I'm really talking about with.
Probably are.
Yeah, right. Yeah, typically they are motivated. They forget how old their kid is. I'm like, your kid isn't a professional and needing to be practicing 7 days a week. Like, it's normal for them to lay on the couch and watch a movie. So I feel like I'm having to constantly remind them of what is realistic, especially just with the travel in club sports now too. That's a big challenge I'm helping them navigate.
Well, there's almost like no day of the week that isn't filled. Maybe like one day it isn't filled, and that's part of the I guess the issue, the scheduling, and there's no such thing as bite sizing stuff, which would be great if you're going 6 days a week and it's bite size, and you know what I mean, you could go 30 45 minutes and they should be moving more than that anyway every single day at that age. So since they do not go outside anymore, they probably should do something like that. Fortunately or unfortunately, I don't know. A lot of it has to become structured for them. But as a parent myself, that's one of the things you see. When they're really young, I'm talking before they're playing sports or anything, when they're toddlers. They're moving, they're not consumed by electronics yet, even if parents put it in front of them a little bit here and there, their juices are still going. They want to move, they want to run, they want to do things, right? Then you talked about the emotional part of it, where when they first start playing sports, there might be a lot of emotional things that go on. Maybe they're highly competitive. Maybe they just don't know how to manage their emotions. There's a lot of different things going on there. That could be a variety of different things. But what I think is interesting, it goes from that emotional part to the part where you said parents are more motivated than sometimes the kids are to go and do things, which I think is really kind of, I don't know if those two are related in some way, shape, or form. They go from emotional and excited and maybe sometimes stressed to step down and non-motivated in that same individual. I'm curious. First of all, I'm curious if those two are related, by the way, because you brought it up. So I don't know if it's somehow there's some sort of a relationship between someone who's highly emotional, or it just could be the individual. I don't know. And then all of a sudden less motivated. But the bigger thing is this: like, you struggle with when they're young because everything is structured to get them into things because they want to, and they want to do it. You're putting them in a lot of stuff, right? But it's not like it was in the past where it's unstructured play. So in order to quote unquote the 60 minutes of moving a day, you kind of are putting them into things, right? But they don't always view it as, hey, this is an opportunity to move. Although if you position it that way, I think it's probably also a good thing. It's not just the sport, but it's like we need you to move every day, right? For your own health. And then they go from that to like, come on, let's go and work. And it doesn't have to be every single day. Talk about that, because that part, that's a lot there. That what you said in like 2 seconds was a whole lot. I think that really needs to be unpacked, and I'll let you kind of dive into it. But my mind is going just from that first statement there, because there's a lot there from being like into it, maybe overly emotional or emotional about what happens, to get off the couch so we can get you to work out.
I think it's very dependent on the family, right? But let's say if mom and dad are signing them up for all these camps, clinics, private lessons. I mean, we have 8-year-olds strength training now. It's kind of crazy to me, right? And if those end up starting to feel like a task, like something that the athlete has to do, well, then it's going to probably hurt their enjoyment. And they aren't going to be as motivated to get up and go do the extra fun things that they want to do, right? So I think that can definitely be connected. And also, if they know, let's say if their parent is just a little too involved, kind of the parents that are pointing out all the mistakes post game, car ride home, right? Well, yeah,
that's every parent.
Every parent, right?
So that's every parent. So like, it's not like I like, yes, there are some parents that don't, but I have found that a lot of parents, and there are some that are very kind about it, and or wait till they get home or wait till the next day. At some point, almost every parent has a conversation, good, bad, or indifferent, about performance. And coaching youth football now, and coaching all youth sports, I have noticed that and I do it too. I'm not immune to it. There are, that's the biggest thing that it goes on now. It went on when I was a kid. So like, I want you to talk about this because there is a mental health part to this, but I also think that there's no way that that's not inevitable. Like I see some of these podcasts of guys, and I hate to say this, they were highly unaccomplished athletes. Okay. They absolutely stunk at sports, or maybe they played high school. And I'm not making fun of people who just played high school sports, but there is differences in levels to people who go on and play at a higher level. Okay. And there's no way to get around. And this is just my personal opinion. I'm thinking back even to my own self, right? Like, my father was a high school didn't I played football in college. My father was a track coach. That's what he's a legendary coach at. Okay. But I can tell you that, like, he would try to be really, really not talk about it, even in football, like would try to not talk about it. Like, he didn't want to. He knows better from being a coach for a million years. And a lot of times as a driven athlete, I would bring it up. Like, I would see him, like, it's like, let's say, I don't know, a lot of the times in high school when you're a really high level athlete, and Derek could speak to this as well. He was a fantastic football player. And most of your games, you really do very well. Even if your team doesn't win, most of the time you probably are dominating or are the best guy in the field or girl in the field, and you're dominating, right, for the most part. But you do have days where you don't perform. The outside world might think you performed well, but really where you are, you didn't perform in the level. You know what I mean? And I think about these times back when I was young. Like I remember always thinking, there's no way I should ever walk off the field not feeling like I was the best player. Okay, but it happens. So sometimes there was a better player, or even in high school, and sometimes I didn't play for whatever reason at the highest level. And I could see my father was really good at this. He would really try not to talk about any of it, especially since he probably didn't feel football was like his deal. You know what I mean? And not that he didn't know about it, but like he only coached it like a couple of years as a high school coach. It wasn't like his thing. He didn't play it. And but eventually I would bring it up. I'd see it on his face, man. I'd see it on his face. Like if my father walked in and it was like an indifferent face, I knew I didn't play well. Like I knew I did not play well. He didn't have to say, excuse my language, shit. He didn't have to say shit. I knew it from him. Okay. And I didn't, I'll be honest, I didn't feel bad about myself because of that. I thought to myself, son of a gun, I got to get better. Okay. And that's from a higher level athlete. Now, and Derek probably was the same way. Like you'd be annoyed maybe that your dad might look at you indifferently, but my brain registered, I've got to do more to get better. Okay?
You didn't let it impact your confidence and derail you as a person.
Nothing like when I say like there's levels of confidence to things. So, and I want Derek to talk about this a little bit because I don't want to dominate this because he probably felt a little bit differently. But he was also, I mean, he was an all-state high school football player, and he was probably the best player on the field almost all the time when he was in high school. And he was a walk-on in college, and he played even though he walked on. He played right away. Like he was he just was a gifted football player. Okay, like I was a measurables guy and a gifted football player because physically I'm big and those kind of things. Like I could, I was state champion hurdler, but I was 215 pounds doing that. So like there's a certain level of like physical gift. Derek adds unbelievable quickness and those kind of things, but he's not like a big giant guy, and he was dominant. Okay, so I would say that for me, I didn't become unconfident. There might be moments that I thought to myself, like almost like, shit, like did I let a level of unconfidence in the game creep in? But I wasn't unconfident in my abilities. I was confident in my abilities. I would, there might be moments in a game, it happens to every athlete, where you're just not on as sharp for a couple of seconds or something happens. It could happen. It happens to the biggest of the big athletes, right? During a big play. But I never, like the totality of confidence, that never, ever wavered for me. Like even when I had bad games in college, I remember the worst game I ever had in my life. And then there was a play at the end of the game, and I was struggling. And at the end of the game, I was just like, to myself, I said, fuck everything. It's 4th and 1. I'm going to go make this play. I don't even know where the linemen were. I just ran through and made the tackle. Okay. There were obviously linemen there. Now, why I didn't do that the whole entire game? Probably because they're big, heavy guys were kicking my ass, and maybe I got a little bit unconfident in my skills to beat those guys at that moment. But I was never unconfident in myself. Like I knew, screw it all. I'm just going to blow through everybody. I don't even know if anyone even attempted to block me. I just ran through and made the play. I don't know. Like that to me is like someone who just overall is confident. Most high-level players have a level of that. The highest NFL pro players, even higher level than what I have. Okay, like they're almost. I would say that a lot of times guys that are really confident in the high college level athletes, even at Division III, they're almost shocked when they don't have a good game. Like to me, if like I walked out and a coach said to me, that wasn't your best game. Like even if I didn't play well, like I was almost kind of like shocked. Like I had a rationality to my own psyche that, like I would be like, oh really? I didn't play well. Then I go watch the film and realize, oh shit, like there were some things I really did terrible. But my mind rationalized all of this away, and that was a level of competence. I always thought that allowed me to be very good. Derek, I'd like you to talk a little bit about it because I want Georgia to address a lot of these things, but I want you to talk about how you felt as a player, like if something because that is one of the things like talking to your kids after and stuff. I agree with it, and I agree with as high school coaches that and youth coaches, we have to realize that people aren't like we are, so you have to be careful about it. Which is where I think maybe Georgia might go. We have to be careful about it. But I would like for you to talk a little bit about it because you were a fantastic player. So I would want you to talk about like kind of how you think.
Well, I think it's like it's a very fine line too, right? Like I can remember it was more middle schoolish time for me when I guess like I started to kind of realize like, hey, maybe I'm a little bit different than everybody else around me. I also, that was up until that point, like most of my coaching in football anyway, was through my father, right? Who was, a pretty good high level athlete himself. There was also a sense like he was also a police officer in the town where we lived. So there was a little bit of that like politicking type of like, oh, Craig's kid is always doing whatever. So I felt a little bit of a weight on my shoulders to always be the best player irregardless so that he didn't have to deal with any of that shit or blowback. So when I look back, like to deal with that as like a sixth grader, or a seventh grader in high school or in middle school was kind of like, wow, that's kind of a lot. Now he stepped away when I became an eighth grader. And then in high school, actually, that's when I think I really started to realize like when it wasn't coming from him, because there was a level of like, oh, maybe I am only playing because daddy's the coach, but as I grew away from him being my coach, that confidence in myself, like, hey, I'm pretty damn good myself. Right. And, then becoming a sophomore and getting to start varsity like immediately with other guys saying, hey, you're the guy. Right. That took my level of confidence to it. But I can remember middle school being a really tough time within the house because not that dad brought it, like not that my father brought it home, but there was just that tension there of, and I don't think it was like play. I think it was more like how I went about it, the attitudes, like just that middle school immaturity type shit that you deal with. That I think it's really tough now with social media and all of these things, like, the wanting to be accepted is even crazier with likes and all that kind of stuff. And I'm sure, Georgia, you can attest to it, seeing that kind of change within the world itself, just like how youth view things. They all have the phones in their hand. God, I see fourth graders, fifth graders with like attached to their phones. Yep. I just think it's insane. And look, but I see my nephew go through it and whatnot, but I think that was really a time when now I don't know if it was my mother, like, look, I'm not dealing with any more silent dinners. Right. Like, but that was also a thing. Like we sat down for dinner. Yeah. Right, you know what I'm saying? Right. Like, that's true. We sat down for dinner. Like, and I can feel for my sister who was like 2 years younger, kind of just like sitting there like, damn, this is awkward as hell. Like, and she's fifth grade. Right. And look, she was a high level athlete as well. She played college basketball. Which it's not very easy to do as a 5'5", shooting guard. But like, I can just remember those conversations, and I don't know if it was mom that like they just made a conscious decision, like, hey, he's not going to coach you anymore. Like it's your time now. Like I've done the work, I've set it in, but I don't ever remember getting in a car after a game where he was like, man, like, just hammering away. Like once it got off of the field, like there may have been like silent treatment or like, hey, I'm going to go do my thing. I didn't feel that way. For me, the confidence thing, I was always, just trying to keep my head above water and prove to people that like, I was just as good as could be no matter what. Like, so even if I had a good game, it was like, all right, well, what can I do better? Like I had just had that mentality because I didn't have, like what Dave had with measurables and stuff like that. I was always trying to prove myself, but I was also so focused on like winning. Like I didn't really care about me. I was like, yeah, was I pissed if like my name wasn't in the paper or something? But that was like my own personal. As long as we won, I was good. Like I would do anything, whatever, for a team. Now I don't know if it's where I grew up in,
I think that might be part
blue collar, You know what I mean? Type of like, it's for the good of the group type of.
And you guys are really good. You guys are really good. So that had a big impact of it.
It was there was a method to the insanity, you know,
Right,
and it was always preached like, you know, team guy, like that's just how I grew. Like that's how I was raised. That's how I grew up. I think that has a lot to do with it. And I think, you know, Georgia, you can comment on this. I'd love for you to like, I think that impact from how your household is impacts your level of confidence, or, you know, like
at least in it could be short run or it could be long run, like if it's over and over again, but like
correct. But it was also like at that point, it was like, hey, let's, you know, you're kind of okay at everything, but like, what do you really want to focus on? Not to be like a one-trick pony, because like I loved all competition and all sports, but I knew at a young age, like I didn't want to play baseball, and like that was my father's number one sport. So I'm sure that crushed him. And also I'm sure it was like, hey, like football is not going to really be with your measurables. Sorry, your genetics. Sorry, kid. You know what I mean? Like, Mom was an athlete, but not that level of an athlete. So football is not going to be your, I mean, if you want it to be your road, then you go and do it. But, you know, I'm sure his obvious, it was like, hey, maybe baseball, you can go the furthest or whatever. Right. But I think that played a lot into it in terms of that. But I never felt like, you know, any type of, the only pressure I ever felt was so that people wouldn't talk shit to him, being like, hey, this is daddy ball. You know what I mean? So
even then your focus was on somebody else, right?
100%, because that's like I only cared about, and then I didn't care how many targets I got or how many catches I had or whatever it was. Like if we won the game, like I'd trade every statistic, every accolade, every award, every all-state, whatever, to win, to have a ring on my finger, right? Like I would have done, I still would do that if I could go back and change one thing, you know? So I don't know if that team camaraderie was built in foundationally as a kid, like with parenting or how I grew up or the town I grew up in. I think a lot of that stuff, because now you see kids like they move all over, they go to a different school than
even if
town they play in. You know,
or even if they are going to something within their school, they still play on 50 different things, right? So
and I think the awareness or visual, like the kids see so much more now with social media, like the comparing, like you only knew for the most part the kids in your town or the town surrounding you, and if you were better than those kids, like you were like the guy. Now with this showcase here or this travel team here, you know, I think that there's just a lot more pressure, and it's trickled down to younger, like you said, you know, younger kids doing all that stuff. Like it's a lot
with the whole, you know, one of the other things that I think, and then I want to let, by the way, Derek, that was fantastic, dude. Like that was like, that was really interesting. Like, as far as how, like, you thought about things. But
yeah, it was a lot, dude. I mean, like,
it is a lot.
Like I'm worried about like how people are treating my parents, you know.
I think my son, I think my son goes through a little bit what you went through. My son goes through a lot of what you went through.
Right, but he was also like, he ran the youth program, right? Like he was the president of the youth organization, and then and then mom was the head cheering advisor. You know what I mean? So like they were literally like my house was the bullseye of like if there were emails back then, like, you know,
that's
like,
a lot.
So I also heard kind of both sides of it.
You
like,
hear your buddies too, probably.
Right.
Like,
because of daddy, or, you know, well, so it's my sister got cut because your mommy, you know, the judges for the, you know, cheering team or whatever. And I don't know, because my family dynamic was really tight where, you know, my cousins were brothers and sisters of that nature, whether it's the Italian, whether it's just how we were raised. Like it was a close-knit group, and like you didn't mess with my family. And that was kind of how I was brought up. So I think plays the role, because I just don't know if those, like I said, we sat down for dinner every night. Like that's not in this world. That's really the rarity now because of just how, you know, things are.
So that's what families really need to prioritize.
Right. I agree.
for dinner.
Correct.
All this like run. And you said something really important there, because you were caring about your dad. It's kind of flipped nowadays, right? So what I'm seeing a lot is too much coddling and parents coming in and swooping in and saving their kid from feeling any sort of pain, guilt, frustration, annoyance.
Absolutely.
What that does is it's really stinting the growth of your child. If
Agreed.
Any discomfort, right? Like we've eliminated that level of, all right, dude, maybe a kid said something to you and you got to sit in it until you see him the next day and think about that. Right. Like exactly. And I feel like, oh, well, I'll write an email to the teacher, or I'll confront, I'll go talk to so-and-so's mom when we are in the drop-off line or whatever it is. It's like, these are things, and being in education at the middle school, like you see that, right? And it's, all right, you keep it a fine line of like, don't cross that line, but there needs to be that healthy, almost, I hate to say it this way, but there needs to be a healthy level of bullying, right? Or maybe bullying's not the right word, but you know what I mean? Like it needs to be that little bit of back and forth, because you have to learn you need to learn how to handle some of those things, because not everybody's going to tell you, you're the cream of the crop all day, every day. Like there's going to be critics.
Car ride home, it's a crossroads. Right? That is your time when you can help them dwell and sit and talk all this crap about coach and their teammates, or you can help them find a solution. Honey, I'm so sorry this happened. You got pulled. You aren't getting that starting position that you want, but what are you going to do about it? Help them find solutions. If they aren't going up and talking to coach, parents, don't do that for them. Rather help your child, help your athlete come up with a good conversation on how to approach coach, though.
Learn how to communicate, right? Yes. Like learn how to have those conversations. Give them those tools, right? Like even and understand that like feeling this way is 100% okay. Like this is normal. Like you're
one of the things that I think is yes, definitely. One of the I can't wait till Derek's kids get a little older, because I really want to have some of these conversations when they start to like, not even at 5 or 6, but like when they start to get to like 8, 9, and 10, because I'm curious what he will be dealing with at that point and how he'll view it. I'm just curious, because that's like, because
AI coaching them at that point.
Yeah, that's true. That actually might make it easier. Coach, how did I do today? Well, your body moved mechanically wrong this way, and so you won't even be able to have a discussion. It'll just be like, well, the AI just basically said I suck without even telling me anything.
Well, in my day, you had a human tell you this, but now, here's your evaluation.
You're not moving very fast, So that might make it easier, I guess.
Listen, this is like a 10-year, thesis paper that we're doing here. Like, you know what I mean? From the time, Dave's son, who's now like 11, 12, moving through that to like where mine, right, where mine's coming through. Like, it just like understanding, like, oh, I can kick a ball at this point, like, who knows where it'll be. Yes. Yeah, I'm still in like
By the way, the most fun time period is that, like, that when they're first discovering they like whatever their little nuances athletically. Like, I like to catch a ball, I like to kick a ball, like, and the first time you see it, it's funny. But like, this has zero to do with what we're talking about. But I remember the first time, like, I think my son was like 1.5 years, and they had this like soccer shots thing. This is where we live somewhere.
They start at 2 years old with that, George.
Maybe it was 2. Yeah. So we bring them to. We're like, all right, we're gonna start them with this. It'll be fun. So they bring all the kids in, and it's at this like park, and they bring all these kids and they bring them into the circle, and the soccer coach is talking to the kid. I don't know why he's talking to him, but he's talking to 2-year-olds. Okay. And like my son gets up, and we don't know where he's going. He just starts like walking in a different direction. And we realize where he's going. There was a playground right next to like the little field area. He went right into the playground, and we tried a couple times, like, hey, you maybe should go back over here. And he's just like totally ignoring us. and like going around and he's climbing and everything. And I'm like, can we like postpone this to like next year? Can we get a credit for this?
I love that.
That's nothing to do with anything we're talking about, but I remember that like when they were little, like that was so funny. Like we're like, oh yeah, he's gonna go play soccer, and he went over to the playground, and then that's what he wanted to do. He wanted to go to the jungle gym and jump around and run around. So, but it's so I would love for you to talk a little bit about like the Derek talked about the fine line. So the fine line and how that changes when they move up in what levels they're at, because I think that that's an important conversation, because I'm telling you, I'm going crazy with all these so-and-so parent analysts that are now all over TikTok. It's at first I thought it was great, like some of these, but I like, as soon as a guy gets on there and says like I played in the JV team in high school, and now is given analysis that parents are too crazy, or parents are this or parents are that. I'm like, what is your frame of reference as a highly unsuccessful athlete? Now, if you were a psychologist, okay, then maybe like I would be like, okay, cool, you're trained in that field. But like some guy who's coaching youth football is now telling people, or not youth football, whatever youth sport he's coaching, is telling people what is wrong and what is right. And I'm just like, you should not be advising anyone on anything. You haven't done anything, and you're definitely not a PhD in psychiatry, psychology, mental health. Like, so all you're doing is just more confusion into the mix. So go ahead, Georgia, right from there.
In parents' defense, they have a lot on their plates. I see a lot of fear of, if I don't sign my kid up for this, they're going to miss out. They're going to fall behind. Parents, I know you don't wake up every day and go, oh, my goal is to put so much pressure on my kid today. I know that's not your goal. It comes from a place of love. So I'm not bashing you. There's a lot to navigate in today's world, right? But also, you are not, if you don't sign your kid up for everything, if they aren't playing 12 months of the year, that's okay. Your kid is going to be much better off, I promise you, if they're playing 3 different sports, and if you are sitting them down for dinner every night and making time for church on Sundays. You are developing a very well-rounded individual. And I mean, we have so many examples, right? Like Patrick Mahomes, hell, he didn't start playing football until like sophomore year of high school, right? But what happens is if we specialize our kids starting at the freaking age of 2, well, then they're going to burn out by the age of 14 and reach their peak. They need to be developing other muscles. They are not missing out. Trust me, don't listen to all the noise and the chaos of I have to sign my kid up and they have to be playing travel sports at 10. You're fine, right? Stay grounded in your family unit. Have the dinner table conversations about what is right and what is wrong. And just help them navigate those challenges, right? And like send them to school. I see a lot of parents, I want your all's opinion on this too. So many parents are pulling their kids from school now. They're doing the online school so they can play their sport all day long. Big problem there.
I literally posted a video of, a same type of thing, right? A pseudo,
they're everywhere.
Sport-based schooling where, they literally go to the facility at 8 a.m. They get a workout in, and then they go sit through English, and then they get another workout or recovery, and then they have math, right? So it's not the formal structure. And I see some, right.
It's probably not what you think.
I see some benefit to it for certain. Like I know, like when I was growing up, like I watched a female athlete that was in the town next to me. Our families were very close. She did that whole type of thing for gymnastics, right? And then ended up with a full ride to Ohio State. But now I've seen her go through, 10 ankle surgeries, right? But it is like, I see the benefit to it. I just think when you specialize at such a young age, I feel like you're now pigeonholing them into this one track of, hey, if you don't make it at this, then what? Right? So we know that by numbers, like majority of people do ultimately fail in some way, right? Because how many really make it to that top level? And even when you get there, if you do, like, are you going to be a superstar in the NFL? Like, there's a fine line of like, define what the ultimate goal is. And if you don't get there, now what? Whereas for me, like, if you develop that well-rounded, all encompassing, whatever, like, you're going to find it, and whatever niche you make it with, you're going to be okay, because you have those other skills or surrounding that. You just use, multiple sports to get there, in terms of, rather than just, we got to make it at this, or we have to do this, or everything is all on this. And then, like, Dave, you say it all the time, like, look, this, you don't get this time back, right? So if you're now focusing all of this time on one little thing, like, what else are they missing out on that they may never experience that ever again, because that window's already closed? Like, doors do close, windows shut. Like, there's certain things end, right? Like, we talk about high school football. Like, football is a sport where you don't really play it unless you're playing in college, which is a small percentage. Like, that's a sport that you never play again once that last season of your senior year is over. So the specialization thing, it's so exploded. Like, so many people, like, got out of school or whatnot. I think one of the things that COVID did was show, at least here, that, like, kids can still learn what they need to learn on paper, academic wise, without even being present in physical school, right? Like, you can sit in front of a screen and get all that. Now, I'd love to see the studies down the road that go along with, all right, well, they missed out on an entire year of walking around the hallways or being in the lunchroom. That social just communicating, right? Like, that everyday, day-to-day things of social interaction. Where are those skills? Because those are things that are very hard or difficult to, like, measure
and mimic, right? And it depends on the family, right?
Of course, right?
Like, you are talking about it and being rational, and hey, if we pull you, and if you specialize in this one thing, we just got to make sure that we're taking you to other homeschool groups to socialize, or making time for other things. And this is all you, that you want to do this. It's not me as your parent that's signing you up for it. I will support you. I will give you the resources, but these are the things that we're going to prioritize, and make sure that you're staying social and doing other things as well, so your whole identity doesn't rely on just that one sport.
Right. Well, like, and I am curious as to, like, so at what point do you put it in their control, right? Like, where is it, like, hey, do you want to do this? Like, you know what I mean? Because look,
well, let's Tim
if it were up to me,
had no
I would
choice.
have never played football, because
Tim Tebow didn't have a choice to be homeschooled or not. Like, his parents homeschooled him, and mostly a lot of it had to do with the religious stuff and the fact that they traveled and those kind of things as a family, like, because they would go.
That's why
like,
he's performing circumcisions in freaking Ghana, like.
But there's every kid is different. Okay, there are kids that thrive in a traditional scholastic system. I think, people may not agree with me on this, but I think that females in general, especially girls, thrive more than boys in the traditional scholastic system, because boys have got ants in their pants 24/7. Not that there aren't girls that could, but
I bet. Hang around with Avery for a little bit, buddy.
Well, I said it depends. But the statistics have shown that now that women and girls have gotten, essentially, they have the same exact opportunities to be able to go to college and go through the traditional school system, whereas 60 years ago that wasn't the same as it was now. They are going to college at higher numbers than boys, okay? And they are succeeding at higher numbers than boys are. So to me, and there's also statistics about, like, kids who go to, like, single sex dominated schools, so meaning like all girls school or all boys school. Girls have little to no positive or negative effect versus being integrated with boys. Whereas boys believe it or not, when they
yeah.
are on their own and they're not influenced by girls. I shouldn't even influence, wanting to date or whatever it is, right? Especially when they get to be teenagers. I'm sure it's less of an effect when they're younger. When they're younger, it's probably more about the fact that boys want to get up and move around, can't sit still. But as they get older, it's more, hey, I want to date her. How does she feel about me? And girls have that too, okay? But I think that they thrive a little bit more in that environment. Boys seem to do better in a single sex school environment. And I'm not advocating for one way or the other. I'm just kind of going off of what, like, some of the statistics that have come out. Just some of the stuff that I've read. So one of the things I think is interesting, like, and reason why I bring up like Tim Tebow or bringing up homeschooling, my thought on it, I used to, like, I grew up, like, I was like, hey, I was a public school kid. Like, my kid now goes to Catholic school. Even there, I still think that there's things that the school system, just listening to his personal interactions. Okay, I'm going off a little bit of that. Like some kids could use different types of environments, and I think the school systems are all even Catholic school is more conservative. They gear it more towards religion, which is great. You know, as a person who's more religious like myself, you know, like, that's great. But it's still, there's still a structured level to everything, and the way that schools are structured in general, to me, and I felt this way myself when I was in school, even though I did well, I was a very good student, all those kind of things. I felt boxed in. I felt like it wasn't like stimulating my mind. It wasn't, I could get really good grades on a test with very little work. Okay. Teachers would be teaching things a lot of times to the lowest common denominator versus the highest common denominator, right? And I was in I don't know what they call it now. Maybe it's AP. I don't know. You know, I'm old, so I don't know. But like, they used to call it advanced classes when I was in school. Okay. So like the advanced group. So even there, I was just like, so there might be classes I wasn't as interested in, or there were classes I was more interested in, a teacher I liked or didn't like. But the structure to me was really, really low. It was a low interaction environment, the public school system, outside of when we had interaction directly with the other kids at like recess or lunch, or even like gym, where it's kind of a little more casual, right? And I thought, and I still think that does not foster like brilliant minds, okay? And for people like me personally, I'm not talking about my career, but me personally, like, I would have loved to be able to do in high school. I don't know if I would have loved it as a youth kid, but in high school, I would have loved to be able to, hey, you can get your workout done at this time, and I could spend a little bit more time in my sport, maybe like they do in Texas or whatever. Like, I would have liked that, right? Like, that would have been something I would have probably thrived in, because Derek went to school where football team was really, really good. Mine was hit or miss, right? So I went to school with a lot of guys that didn't give a shit about football. Like, maybe one other guy might even, whether we won or lost, like, the party was still the party. So, like, they didn't care. They did not care. Okay. They were great guys. You know what I mean? Like, some of them are still my friends, but they didn't care about sports. All right. They did not care about sports. So every environment is different. So I think that the way the schools are now does not work it works to the general mass. It prepares us to, like, one day go work for somebody. You know what I mean? It doesn't foster our frame of thinking. And in today's world, with where the world is going to go, and I tell Derek this all the time because of AI, if you can't solve problems, it's not going to matter how smart you are. You're not smarter than the computer, okay? You're not. Like, people can say whatever the hell they want to me. They are not smarter, because I use a lot of these tools all the time and stuff I do. I cannot remotely come up with any idea as quickly or as effectively as a computer. But what I can do is probably solve problems that come up right now, at least, better than a computer. So kids should learn those kind of things. They should learn how to interact socially. Okay. If they want to play their sport more, they should be able to do some of that stuff. Like if a kid is more physical, maybe they should have another period of better gym or something. I'm not saying they have to have 3 hours of working out, but like gym or something like that. And I think that part is where I think parents are doing this whole, like they're kind of going the other extreme. Like I'm going to homeschool my kids so they can play sports all the time. But really what they're saying is I need the schools to address maybe different needs possibly for my kid.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not doing that. And like, so now they're going to another extreme. Like the only thing I can think of is, you know what, I'll homeschool them. I'll work them out for 3 hours because I can't really figure out exactly what I should do. So I'll do this and I'll cover that base and then I'll do this, right? And that's probably not the exact answer either, right? And the Tim Tebow extreme is probably not the exact right answer for either people. Like his parents taught him everything. I don't even know if he was working out. Like he was probably praying and doing a lot of learning. Yeah. And then, you know, he was very physically gifted. Once he got older, he really started to really thrive and played for a high school. The long and the short of it is the mental health of the athletes, which is what I want you to talk about. With respect to schooling and sports and parents is a very, very difficult dichotomy and ecosystem. And everybody wants their kid to be the best that they can be, and especially if they see they're interested in something or they have a talent in something. And the world we're in only addresses it in pieces. So that's where you see a lot of parents go off the rails. Like, we need to be every weekend at this thing because, you know, you're in school 5 days a week and you're there all day long and we need to play more. Well, the truth is, going back to like Tony Holler and stuff, like if we were able to microdose them for 30 minutes every single day, let's say we're a baseball player and he got his swings for 30 minutes here during the day. And then he threw for 45 minutes the next day, and I'm just using this example. Mm-hmm. Well, maybe they wouldn't feel the need to squeeze in 90,000 innings of baseball on the weekend because they feel like they're squeezed during the week, right, on stuff, right? And that's where the dual sport athlete thing gets kind of screwed today, which drives me nuts. Like you want your kid to be able to play as many sports as he wants, right? But then he goes and says, I want to be the best quarterback I can be. Okay, how the heck am I supposed to do that while you're playing basketball and all those other things, right? Now, if you could take 30 minutes out of your afternoon and he just threw for 30 minutes, you know what I mean? Most parents work till 5:30. Yeah. Where are they doing all this time to be able to do that? And that's where I think this homeschooling environment thing and you know, all this kind of stuff starts to come up. I think it is good in the long run. I may not see it in my time frame, but in the long run of the ecosystem of starting to work like, okay, people who want to do this, this is where you go. People who want to do this, this is where you go. People who want to do this, this is where you go. The breakdown of it all is that the school sports system gets broken down a little bit because of it, and the level maybe of competition from school to school gets broken down. Yeah, that's a whole different conversation. I'll let you run. I talked about a lot of stuff. You know.
As long, I don't want parents to be like, oh my gosh, there's so many options. There are a lot of great options, right? As long as you are developing other areas of their life, you're going to be just raise a good human, right? Raise a good, respectable human. The problem that I see when parents pull their children and they're doing like the online homeschool, they need to be intellectually challenged, right? If they aren't intellectually challenged, then, well, what are they doing after sports? They have these awful grades. I'm working with a lot of motocross guys, and they can't spell the word orange. You know, it's because they
Does that matter anymore? Spelling the word orange. Well, I'm just asking. I'm not being facetious. I'm actually saying it because I could look it up in 2 seconds and say, how do I spell orange?
Right. But is that teaching you how to do these bigger problem solving skills, like on a bigger
Maybe not. I don't know. I'm asking.
right? Yeah. Like as long as you, right, like you're working on their mental, you're working on their physical, working on their social, just being a good human. There are multiple paths to do that. And the schools, I've seen this in some public schools now, which I love. They're allowing the athletes to have like a class count as their sport. So
I like that.
their 7th period, that's like their sport, and that's when they start practice.
Which is kind of the Texas model. And I literally watched a press conference yesterday with Neil Brown, who's the new head coach at North Texas, and he talked just about from his coaching moves throughout from around the country and where he's been. They picked North Texas based off of the opportunities for their 14-year-old daughter, 10-year-old son to be in a school system and a school setting where sports were a part of it, right? Where that first period of the day is your sport. And you just see, and we talk about it on the podcast back and forth, and we compare and contrast with coaches at all levels from other states. And when that is incorporated into the quote curriculum formally, not just sprinkled here or an option here, when it's focused on, the numbers are drastically different when it comes to it, right? And that's across the board with sports. It's not just football. It's all sports. It's male, it's female, it's across the board. The numbers are just different, which now in my eyes, that adds to the academic piece, because look, you're talking about middle school kids who are pent up and they have that energy and whatever. You get that out of the way the first block of the day. The level of focus on now your academics, whether it's math and I hate math, or whether it's science and I hate science, it's just a different level of focus because they've done already what they've wanted to do. You know what I'm saying? Or it's not it's forced on them, but it's also
it's give and take.
Right. It's a great balancing act. And look, we can look at the science of it too, and say that, the way you act or feel after physical activity, the endorphins that are released and all that stuff, like there's a reason in elementary school you still have recess. Like it's still
the Spartans had it right. Sound mind, sound body.
100%, brother. Like I just think that's so
years
big.
ago. You know what I mean? Like they figured that out thousands of years ago. But listen, I want to let Georgia continue. It still goes back to, and Texas has been, and there are other states in the South that are really doing a great job of this, but it goes back to the Industrial Revolution. Like we needed coal miners, we needed factory workers to learn skills, right? Like what was school, like basic skill sets, basic English. So they all spoke English well when they came and worked for somebody, okay, in a factory or something, you know what I mean? So they're able to do the job, and it's one form of communication, you know what I mean? Like when America was originally going through the Industrial Revolution, like you had, Irish immigrants who spoke this way, Italians who spoke this way, like people from Asia, right, who in the West Coast who spoke whatever their language was, you know what I mean? So I think that was originally part of it. That system is dying rapidly in the rest of the world has already moved on from a lot of this stuff. That's one of the areas where we haven't moved as quickly, but with like certain states already. Georgia, go ahead. I'm sorry. You were talking and go on some more. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna add on to a little bit of what Derek said, and that when the schools are helping like accommodate, right, putting sport as a class, well, then it frees up time to relax, family time, right? Okay, hence the well-rounded individual that we're trying to help our athletes be, right? Versus, okay, I sit at school for 8 hours and then I have to go to my 2-hour long practice and then I'm shoving food in my mouth and doing homework, right? So I like that the schools are starting to do that, especially when sports teach kids such great life skills too.
Yep.
When I'm working on with athletes, like focus and confidence and managing perfectionism and pressure, performing under pressure, right? All those things just apply to other areas of your life. outside of sport. But I
Great
mean,
point.
you
Yep.
said it though, Derek, we're helping athletes solve problems. And
Right.
that's what, connecting back to parents, that's what you want to help your athletes do, is just help give them the tools. If you need to hire a sports site consultant to help them do that because they don't have the tools, right? You need to get them a mentor like one of you guys, then that's what you provide them, the resources. You don't solve it for them. You give them the tools to do it.
I think that's dead on. It's very, very important that the kids have an opportunity to learn those skills. I think you said, really, really well, is, help them be a great human being, right? So part of that is fulfilling some of their needs, not just your needs, and that helps them understand what that can be. And I think that in the schools, mental health, like if I was a kid in high school and they said, we have a school psychologist, you can go visit them at any time if you have issues.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would have never went, even if I was having a problem. I could just tell you that, like, I wouldn't have,
Yeah.
So I think that having that individual have sessions with groups, like where you have to spend as a group 30 minutes talking about something with that individual in the school system, not just having them there as a resource, because when you have those tools as a resource, that's nice. That's a first step, in my opinion. Okay. But the next step is, you know, uh, 9B, grade 9B, Johnson homeroom visits with this individual for 30 minutes, or every single football player, in groups of 5 or 6 or 8, they are going to visit with them during the day, not after school where they feel pressure to do their practice, their weight lift. They're going to resist.
There's gonna be time for it, right?
It has to be during the school day. I hate saying this because outside of like the kids who just, like, for whatever reason, school is a place that they want to be at, the majority of kids outside of the human interaction of school, meaning I see Derek or I see George every day and I get to hang out with them and see them, and that's awesome, that part of it, which is phenomenal. Outside of that, they don't want to be there. They don't want to sit in class. Okay. Now, there are exceptional students, meaning kids who are really, like, just school comes really good to them and they want to study. And I'm not talking about like their intelligence levels. Like, there are kids that are really intelligent that are like that. There are kids that are okay intelligent that also enjoy it, right? So it's not just, but outside of those individuals, which I would bet is less than 30% of the kids that go to high school or school today.
Mm-hmm.
The kids like school because because of the interaction with other kids their age, and they don't have interaction as often. The second they come home, they're on their apps and 9,000 other things, right, from that standpoint. And I think it's the interaction where they enjoy it. And I'm sure schools are doing more and more of it. We need to do it at an accelerated rate, because the next generation is going to have, forget athletics, they're going to have a lot of things that are going to be much more, the ability to be complacent and not interact is going to get higher and higher.
Right.
So I mean, when you could type things into a computer, or you could ask it like any question and it could give you pretty much the answer all the time correctly. Like, I mean, it's be hard for people to find purpose. And being around other people is what gives you that ability to do that. And I think people like yourself, like being able, whether the school has them on payroll or they're bringing in, like, these things have to be mandatory. Like, you should meet with a Georgia Miller as a group, because obviously it's not going to be prudent just to have it one-on-one. And the problem with one-on-one in the school is that obviously they should have the ability to do that. But so many people, if 10 people book an appointment with the one school psychologist you have there, there's another 500 kids that don't ever get to speak to that person, right? So you bring them in groups and you have workshops and you have things that they will enjoy in the school day. You know what I mean? And it's not in the auditorium when there's 500 other people like that. Like, I don't know how you were. The second they told me, oh, today there's a group that's coming into the auditorium, I don't know, to dance around or to do something, I was like, awesome. 45 minutes.
Like, class.
I'm going to close my eyes. And that's how I was. I'm closing my eyes, and the second we get in there in high school, and I'm not waking up unless the teacher taps me or I'm snoring and the person next to me hits me. I'm out cold. And I can tell you, I was out cold every single time one of those things in high school, right? And this is coming from an honor roll student, all right? So I can only imagine kids who say to themselves, hey, you know what? As soon as I graduate high school, I'm going to go be an HVAC. Like, how am I doing in high school for with all this other stuff? Like, right. I'm going to be an HVAC and I'm going to make more money than everybody else anyway, doing that from the time I'm 18.
Respect that. Right.
Yeah. Right. Like, listen, some of the wealthiest people I know own HVAC companies. Okay. And it's the kid who went to my high school who literally might have been the worst student of all time. Okay.
Right.
A family that owned a plumbing company. The father built it up pretty good. The sons, they had 3 or 4 sons. Those guys have taken it. I mean, I can't even imagine how much they're worth. I mean, it's insane. Okay, how well they've done. Those brothers have taken it to a whole nother level. And I could tell you, between all of them, their average GPA was probably 1.0, okay, in high school, right? So where is the world for those guys? If those guys didn't have a father that was in that business that would be able to pass that knowledge on, they probably weren't, right? Where is it for the guy that might be interested in that from the get-go? And I know there are tech schools in that they could go to right away, but those things aren't always known. It's not just a kid that's going to go to college. It's not just a kid that's the athlete. It could be the kid that's wants to be an HVAC guy or wants to cut hair as a boy or a girl or whatever it is they want to do. And we have to figure out more ways to foster that. And that's where the extreme, I think, on the sports, because sports have become extreme. Like everybody, I'm telling you, it's crazy. Everybody wants their kids and everything. Like, there are travel teams with kids on it that wouldn't beat rec teams. Think about that.
Yeah, and I feel bad, right, for the kids who just want to play sports and have fun. You don't need to be the star on the best travel team. You don't. You can just play rec basketball and for fun, right? And that's great. And helping you, I mean, I think we talked about this on part 1, right? Is just helping them figure out what their strengths are, what their bread and butter is, and helping them chase that, right? Like, you want to go to trade school? Amazing. We need more people doing that.
Yes.
And I think too, like, kind of 2 points to kind of hit home with this is, I think Dave and I have discussed it on here before, right? We talk about it all the time. It's like, when we were in school, and not to be the old head or whatever, but not everybody played sports, right? Like, it wasn't like that. And that was totally okay. Like, you knew your groups of like, hey man, like what you're doing on weekends or what you're doing when you go home from school isn't what I'm doing. You know what I'm saying? And that was totally okay. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if social media or just the entire, like, just having more access to see all of that, or whether it's the pedestal or the level that athletes are now put on, right, because of the visibility and the money. I don't know if that has something to do with why sports now have to be the thing, right, or whatever it is. Look, it used to kind of be like, if your town wasn't really, like, if you didn't have some of that stuff, like, then you just didn't do it. right? Now you can easily just, oh, well, we can go on to this town and play basketball here because, they have the team. Like, it just wasn't such a almost like a rite of passage that you had to play sports. And I feel like now that's such a big thing. Like, I want to get my kid involved. Well, the first thing everybody thinks about is sports, right? And I think I might have a
when you took away phys ed, phys ed throughout the United States, okay, and to me, that was the beginning, okay, of when that became. Now New Jersey and Illinois still have it as mandatory. I'm correct, right?
Yep, Derek? Still need 4 years of phys ed,
right?
To graduate high school here.
But even there, it's been de-emphasized in a lot of places.
But define what phys ed is, right? Like, you're not,
it's not like it was.
You're not jumping jacks and physical fitness tests. We're not timing miles here. I mean, look, even we're not like, you don't have to change anymore, right? Like, that used to be the main thing. Like, you got to come in, you got to put on a pair of sweatpants and a t-shirt and have sneakers, and now we can go do phys ed. Like, now it's just, all right, here's what we're doing.
Phys ed, so I think in phys ed, from the time you were young in the old days, right, you would figure out, I'm pretty strong, I'm pretty fast, I'm not that strong, I'm not that fast. Now, you might still like sports. You might realize I'm kind of a rec guy. You know what I mean? Like, this kid over there is like a little bit more maybe genetically blessed, you know what I mean? Or likes it more or whatever, you know what I mean? Or I don't really like it that much, So there was like phys ed kind of gave everybody an opportunity to move, which was great, okay? And it gave everybody an opportunity to see kind of where they were too, right?
Back up.
So good phys ed teachers in the old days everybody worked out. Everybody did, like, they would be in squads, and it was kind of from the military, right? And they would do push-ups, they'd do squat thrusts, and some kids didn't like it, some kids did, okay? You tried to do pull-ups, you tried to do all those kind of things. And then you played some sort of sport maybe or some activity, and you were moving. You were getting your movement in, okay? A lot of things happened to me in that. In that time period, you figured out if you wanted to be stronger, if you wanted to do more of this, you wanted to do less of this, you liked it or you didn't. Now, you still had to be there. So whether you liked it or not, you had to be there, okay? And we lost Georgia here. She may be cut out. Oh, no, did we lose her or is she there?
I don't see her.
It's so weird that it didn't put us up above, like, it didn't move us.
Maybe she's still reloading or whatever. But look, you're 100% correct, because like also that level of like, hey, you have to do this. I think that's a little something that's gone away too when it comes to it, right? Like, sometimes you just got to do something you don't want to do.
Right.
You know what I mean? And you got to suck it up and you got to deal with it, because like, that's the best calculator and whatever for life itself. Like, I just think that's like a big deal. Right.
Well, and if I have to sit in math class, right? Like, let's say I don't like math. Let's use you. Let's say Derek didn't like math. You still had to sit in math class, right? So why shouldn't the kid who doesn't like phys ed also have to be in phys ed class and forced to move, right? So,
well, it goes back to George's point of, we never want to make anybody feel uncomfortable. We never want anybody to have to sit in something.
They need to.
There's a balancing act to all of it. And I think you would get a lot of kids that as they go and choose sports, instead of everybody wanting to do a sport or every kid throwing in soccer, I pretty much knew that soccer was not going to be my thing. Like in first grade when we go out there and play, and then there was some kid who looked like Pele out there, and I was like, oh God, like this is not really my natural sport here. I played for Jim, but and I had fun, but it was like, this kid over here is like, he's just going around me and like, but so you kind of learn those things. Recess is still there. I think there should be more time for recess. Okay. Now, if a kid isn't doing something, let's say they go out to recess and they're all playing, and a kid doesn't want to go and play, you should also address that, meaning like, now recess is an optional time, right? So whereas gym is not, recess is an optional time. So you don't have to go run around if you don't want to. You want to go, so you should be able to go into the computer room if that's your thing, right? Like, I don't agree. Like, everyone's like, oh, you should have phys ed as mandatory or some form of that as mandatory. And then when teachers are like, oh, recess, you guys have to go run around. Well, like, you should have gave me the have to for phys ed. And then recess, it should be my time. So if I want to sit on if I want to sit on the curb and do nothing for 30 minutes, that's what I can do. If I want to go run around and play football with my friends, and that's what I want to do. If I want to go into the computer room and learn more about X, Y, and Z, that's what I should be able to do. And we're taking away some of the healthy forcing them to do, and putting in some things that potentially could be unhealthy. Oh, you must play basketball because you didn't move all day. There's no phys ed. I need you to play basketball. Well, what confidence does that kid build if he never practices basketball? He goes and plays rec basketball, or he throw him in travel. God, oh my God, I don't know why they do this. Okay, never played any basketball at all, and he's playing on a travel team. Okay, or baseball, whatever, like never picked up a bat, and now he's on the D travel team, and we're getting spanked 10-1 every single game. Does that build confidence? No. Does that provide the value of sport? No. If you could compete and have you might lose more than you win. Even if you lose more than you win, that's okay. But if you have an opportunity and you're at the level, somewhat in range level-wise of somebody else, then you know what? You learn skills.
Yeah.
If you're not even in range of somebody else, you have to go find that range that you belong in if you're going to play a sport. And that's crazy. Like, I see the travel, like, when I see the travel good players, that's one thing. You can say, okay, they put too much time in, they don't put too much time, whatever that is. The thing that's crazier to me is, why would you ever put your kid who is nowhere near good enough in a travel situation to go get their butt kicked over and over again? That definitely does not build their confidence.
No. Yeah. And confidence is built by doing hard things, right?
Correct.
But we also need to be realistic within that. Yeah.
Hard without, like, if you haven't practiced a skill and then you go and play in a game and it's not rec. Rec is where you do that to me. Rec is where me and Derek, our first time playing a sport, and everybody else is like first or second time playing a sport, and we're all out there and we're all clumsy, and that's okay. We're learning this thing, and the coaches are like, hey, it's positive. It's a really good. And if for some reason there's a rec team of kids that are really good, and that team's dominating everybody, my thing as the rec director would be like, you know what? Next year, some of you guys either have to break apart, or you maybe should go play some travel, because you might be so far above everybody else that it's crazy, right? And you start to see that too. And that might be a harder conversation, but the rec should be where the kids are trying things for the first or second time. You should never throw your kid into travel if he has not done some level of work in that sport to be able to go against somebody who they might have been practicing this sport for a long period of time. That definitely does not encourage him to do it and want to become better. Rec will, like, a little bit of success, and this whole, we've got to create so many levels of teams just so everybody can have a chance. The kid who's on the D team is going to quit the sport within a year or two, because he's going to get killed.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even see the value of it. Like, and the other parents, I think some of them pretty quickly realize that my kid doesn't like getting his butt kicked over and over again. You know what I mean? I don't know how we solved that. And you probably work with a lot of kids that are more driven and more than likely their parents are more driven. There's kids that never even go try that sport again. We don't know if they could have been good if they just played rec for a few years or a couple of years. Like, why are we doing that part of it? You know what I mean? And we should not, in my opinion, overly chastise the travel parents that their kids are pretty good. They want to go and they want to go crazy. Go crazy. That's the way I look at it. If your kid enjoys it, fine.
Yeah.
If your kid is obviously really resistant, you got to be cognizant of this, right? Like, there's a level of pushing. You should push your kids to a certain extent, I think. But there's also, like, if there's, like, flat out rebellion, you got to address the issue there. So if they really want to do that sport, but we should also, like, not, like, try to make the people who feel like, oh, they should play travel if they're not in travel. And we should not chastise recreation. Like, recreation has a purpose. I absolutely hate this. Towns have thrown their hands up with recreation and refuse to hire someone that will be the politicker and the advocate for rec sports. If you're in a town and you hire a person to be the rec director, they have to be more than just a person that schedules fields. They have to be a person that champions recreation sports for your town. And when I mean champions it, like, when there's registration for Little League Soccer, whatever you call it, that person is there shaking hands with people and saying, we want you to play recreation if this is your first time. Okay? We're never going to turn anyone away from recreation.
And make it all about learning a new skill, a new sport, getting better, growing in that area. It's not end all be all. This is my life, and it's all about winning. Like, we need more environments like that.
Georgia, they hide. Okay? I'm not kidding. The recreation directors hide. They don't want to deal with parents.
Right?
So they send emails out and they hide.
Yeah.
Like, we run, like, we run a 7-on-7 club, okay? Parents all know who we are. They all know who we are. That's the difference with the clubs part of it, right? Good, bad, or indifferent. This is why parents do join clubs. Because the guys who run the clubs for the most clubs, I'm not saying all of them, but a lot of times there is an individual that you are, a group of individuals you're dealing with. You know who those recreation people, because they were tired of getting emails and tired of getting calls and maybe not equipped skill set wise because they're hired by the town and they're really hired to schedule fields. Okay. They got tired of it. So now they just they're not out in front. Very few of them are out in front, and the recreation programs died. Recreation directors have to be the face of the recreation departments in your town. In my town that I grew up in, okay, I knew who the recreation directors were, and the person who was in charge of every single recreation sport, I could tell you who they were. In football, it was Tony Alia. In wrestling, it was Jim Dempsey. In baseball, it was a variety of different people. It was the Salernos. Then it was a lot of different people every single year, right? You knew who they were, okay? You knew it was Babe Liberty, who lived across the street from me. All right, you knew who the recreation director was for each and every sport, and you knew who the town recreation guy was. When I was a coach at the high school level, the head of recreation was Bob Galanius, who played high school football at our high school. Everybody knew who Bob was, okay? Bob was out in front. Now, he's no longer there. He's probably retired now, right? But he was out in front. That guy would be at everything, whether he wanted to or not. And recreation sports thrived for, I don't know how it is now in my town, but when I was coaching there 20 years ago, it thrived because of that. In 20 years, more and more of that has changed, that psychology of that. All right, I got one final question because we've taken way too much of your time, and I've talked way too much. So has Derek, which has been great for me because it fills my ego. But I haven't let you talk about it. I want you, if you have your world of things that would help athletes grow throughout their sports experience, Georgia Miller's perfect world of what would help them improve their psyche, help them be able to continue to develop from a mental standpoint and enjoy and succeed in the sports experience.
Yeah, that's a big loaded question. I think we need more competitive environments. I support the trash talk. I think it's all about me, my mistakes, my errors, my stats, my playing time. And to counteract that, I think two things. We need more competitiveness in practice, more scrimmages, more competitive games. If you guys lose, you're running suicides. But okay, you're gonna get right back at and have another chance at it, right? Like, let's teach athletes how to compete. And then also just with parents at home, right? I think it's just some simple applicable things. Sit down at dinner every night, talk about what went well, what you're grateful for, and what could have gone better, and what you're going to be doing the next day. I don't think it needs to be the super complicated process. I think it's just a lot. Let's just have more open conversations about it. Let's build our awareness up. That way we don't get so internal and bottled up and all selfish. I think it's just about, let's keep the team first. Let's keep loving other people first. And parents, ask the open-ended questions, get your athlete thinking, get them problem solving. And the difference is those small habits make a big difference in the lives of athletes.
The sport psychology and the assistance of athletes and their well-being, what should be more done? What should be less done from that standpoint? My belief is that helping them understand their thoughts as early as possible and what it means is really, really important in getting them to stay in the sport. How do we improve that aspect?
Yeah. I think it goes two ways for me, right? Like when I'm working with 10-year-olds, I'm like, oh, this is great. I'm planting these nice little healthy thinking seeds for them. And then another part of me is like, shouldn't they just be having fun? Like, why do they need a sports psych? So I go back and forth. It definitely depends on the family and that individual athlete and what they're struggling with. But
you need a sports psych if you're in my household, definitely.
Yeah, right. Like
I might need one.
Sports, right? Like kids are like, what is sports psychology, right? But right, I think just starting small with them, like the self-talk, right? If you're telling yourself you suck, well, that's not making you feel very confident and move you forward. Right? We can start small ways, but also I think there's a big stereotype behind it, right? Like, oh, just because I'm seeing a sports psychologist, that mental performance coach, that means something's wrong. No. It doesn't mean something's wrong. I'm literally a coach. I'm just a coach for your brain, and we're figuring out how to make your thoughts work for you, not against you.
Well, Georgia, I think that too, like in itself, right? Like I think that talking to someone more of on a one-on-one interaction basis, right? Call it whatever you want, is something that every child, every parent, like everybody should do in general. But because for so long it's been tied to some type of stigma or judgment zone of whatever that is, I think that kind of shies people away just in the wording itself, right? Like using the word, psychologist over, hey, it's my mental performance coach, right? Like just calling it that in itself. And now with the expansion of, I want to say, every individual's team, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like add that piece to the puzzle, right? And that adds a whole different level of it. Look, you're seeing someone for one-on-one training, right? Physically, this is just like you said, the part of your brain that now is going to get more one-on-one training and that type of, but I think so much of it comes into that stereotype of, hey, I don't need to go sit in a room or whatever and have those conversations. But in reality, like, yeah, we all do, because we need a different level or a different viewpoint, someone who is an expert in this field that can now help us either redirect or keep us on course. And I would love to see it that people don't wait until there's an issue to come at it.
Yes.
Whereas, like, let's educate you before,
Yes.
like, I'm getting a call home from a coach, or a call to, a phone call about, from your teacher of whatever's going on. Let's globally teach these skills to every child as part of a school curriculum, or
Agreed.
coaches should have this conversation with that preseason meeting with parents. And hey, your job as a parent is to have these conversations and to help fester and foster and teach your kids these skills, so that now
Maybe
we're not running into these
psychologist
issues
should
down the road.
talk to the parents. That would be
Because I think that's where most of it comes from.
Because coaches get caught. Coach, don't you think that, like,
I think the kid is usually put in the middle, right? And
well, I think the
they're
parent,
trying to understand, which way do I go? Do I listen to my coach who's telling me this? And but then when I get in the car, I'm hearing all of this noise. And that used to not be an issue because parents weren't as aware of what was going on. They were just happy that their kid was involved in something. Now with social media and access to knowing things, every parent feels like they'd be a better coach.
Did
or
you
they'd
watch
be
the
something
show?
else.
Did you watch the show? I definitely think I'm a better coach than most of the people that coach my kids. So I could tell you that I think I'm, I admit to the way that I think about things. You know what I mean? Like Derek knows. Like, I'm pretty forward about how I think. I'm not always going to interject or even interject what I think about it. But in my head, just the way that I am, just my mindset, like, I'm already thinking like this should be this. Maybe it's from playing and coaching, and that might be different than other people.
Oh, you're on mute, David.
Have you seen the show Billions?
Yeah.
Derek, you watched the show Billions with Axe?
Yep.
So there's a show Billions. It's about a guy who runs he's incredibly successful hedge fund owner, and he's really aggressive, and he's controversial. Okay. And we're talking like at the highest level, like crazy high level of drivenness in him. Okay. Like beyond anything that even I could think of. And, like, we're talking high level. He has a lot of those workers that obviously work for him that also are making a lot of money, incredibly driven, different varied levels of talent. They all work in this like group. They have a psychologist on staff full time. She's a big part of the whole show. It's what I find so intriguing about it is she advises him and she advises the whole staff too. Okay. Now he hires her. So I guess in the end, you would always say that she might be more loyal to him. That's always kind of the part of the issue of the show. Like, how does she maintain her independence within the fact that he obviously pays her an insane amount of money because he wants them at a high performing level. She is the second highest paid person there because her job is to keep everybody on point, address their issues to make sure that their performance is at a high level. Right. I mean, and they could go to her for anything like divorce, I thought I was a heterosexual. Now I'm a homosexual, anything. And she addresses all of these things. Okay, as their personal coach, as a psychologist. All right. And here's what's interesting about it. She's the middleman. Okay. The coach, the head of the head fund, which we would say like is the coach of the team, the CEO, he is not there for that purposes at all. His job is to keep them on task in the role that they have to make sure that they're doing the job as far as making money. And that psychologist is the person who manages emotions, feelings, how they're able to keep on task, what's going on in their life. And that, to me, in the long run with athletics is the most important thing as you move up. And I think high school is the first time where you really kind of need that. You need that person in for all sports available to the athletes, because that way the coach, the hardest part of the coach nowadays, because parents are so involved, okay, is that part of it. Like, I've got to address the psychology of the parent. I've got to address the psychology of the athlete without having any that experience at all. It has to be natural to me, right? Or anything I've read. I'm reading, as coaches are reading 9,000 books on performance, trying to give themselves a PhD on these things. Okay, when there is somebody that could be available that has that could be the go-between for the parents, not just the athletes, but the parents to go to, because that enables them to help their kid and interact with the coach. One of the things as a parent, one of the biggest things they say they have questions about is, when do I go to the coach if there is an issue? They don't know when to go to the coach, when not to go to coach. There are some parents that way overstep their bounds or go to the coach about every damn thing there is, okay? And there's some parents that should go to the coach about something and never say anything and walk away disgruntled because maybe they could have addressed something. I'm curious your thoughts on that role within schools. I'm sure in colleges, they're at the highest level, they're starting to do it more and more, because you can't see these things. Like, I can never unwatch what I saw with Billions and not think that that's how people should have to be able to learn. It's not a human resources person in a company. It's an actual psychologist that helps you with your performance. Georgia, go.
So there's the 24-48 rule for a reason, right? Like, parents are not allowed to meet with coaches until at least 24 hours till after their child has played. There is a time and a place to go to coach. I would say after your athlete has talked to them at least twice. And then if you need to calmly send an email asking for a meeting with coach, a nice sit down conversation, maybe before or after practice one day, then amazing, you can do that. But not until your athlete has talked to them. And I mean, David, absolutely, you're right. Like, I don't think coaches realize that sports psychs can help take a huge load off of your plate.
Absolutely. It's one less hat you have to wear.
One less hat you have to wear. And I get it, as I coached as well. It's really hard to bring an outside person in who you
100%.
trust with your team. So
especially with something that with that capacity of like what the impact could actually have. That's the same as bringing in, an athletic trainer who has no idea what they're doing. Right. Like, so, it's literally on that level.
For coaches, advice, like, make sure you get to know somebody like me. You interview them, you make sure they have the same kind of philosophy as you. I should be getting to know your culture, your terminology, your coaching style. Like, I should be asking you all those things. So if you are looking for a mental performance coach to bring onto your team, look for those things. You want to make sure you trust them. You want to make sure they know what they're doing. And you want to make sure that, like, somebody like me is getting to know you and your team, because it's going to be different for so many other teams. And you guys, I'm going to end with that. I do have to hop off.
Absolutely. We'll let you go. Thank you so much, Georgia. Have a great day.
So nice talking with you guys. Yes, have a great day. We'll talk soon.
All right. Great. Bye-bye. So one of the things that and she didn't get to really address it, but I think that the coach should have that person to go to as well. And that was my point with the Billions thing.
Yeah, coaches need to coach. Coaches need to get coached as well, Dave. Like, we talked about that all the time, and a lot of guys that have come on here.
It's not the AD's job either.
No, that's not. No, I'm not. I don't want anybody to. I want to talk to someone that has there's no skin in the game for them.
That's
because those people work through angles, right? Like, and everybody's going to play it, whether it happens naturally or whether you do it subconsciously, whatever it is. Like, when you're vested in it, you're going to lean a certain type of way. Give me somebody who's not writing my checks. Give me somebody who didn't hire me. Give me some, you know what I mean? Like, that's why, look, give me somebody who understands the situation I'm in and where we're going from. But like, don't give me, like, I don't want somebody who's going to tell me what I want to hear or just going to sugarcoat. Like, no, give me somebody who's going to give me true 100% honest feedback to understand, like, hey, like, this is how you got to do it, or this is what you need to do. Because I think that's the biggest, there is no one for coaches to go to or to have those conversations with. It's really hard.
It's really, really hard. And like, that was one of the first shows that I've seen. I'm sure there are others, but that was one of the first shows that I've seen that took a super high performance person, like the guy who plays acts, right? And he hired, he hires this person, right? Like, what's amazing is, I mean, obviously, I'm sure at all large financial firms, because the stress is so high, they probably have some version of that's where they got it from. They didn't, I don't think the writers invented that, but they probably got it from somebody who was doing that, or a group of people who were doing it. Or maybe that's a norm in the hedge fund world, because of the high level of stress and transactions and the amount of dollars that are involved, right? Like, as stressful sports are, there's still a win or loss, and there's a level of things that you cannot control that could happen in a game. But
100%.
You're getting a high level of data where you can actually make decisions and financial decisions based off of the percentages that are given to you, and you lose money because maybe you have a hunch, or that's got to be incredibly stressful. I can't even imagine how stressful that is, because as stressful as sports is, like, being the CEO of those kind of companies where literally you got guys giving you billions of dollars, the only thing you must be thinking is, hopefully I don't walk down the street and the guy whacks me. You know what I mean?
Well, and I think that's the level of crazy that shows you where sports are at, right? Is that is some type of a fearful thing for some people to, like, if I make this, decision or whatever, like, is something really going to happen to me, physically or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, just, that's where I think social media and the understand, like, I feel like parents and just fans in general feel like, because they care about a team or they care about something, like, or, they just have this, like, free for all access to be able to do or say whatever to a coach or to somebody or to an athlete, a high level athlete. Like, where is that level of, like, hey man, we don't cross into that world, or that's that, there isn't that boundary anymore. Nope. I think a lot of it has to do with, social media or whatever. Like, some of these,
they think they know them.
And that's because the access, like, now look, like,
they all have the podcast,
like, as a coach, I'm giving you this access to some things on the other side of it, but there still needs to be a line of understanding where you don't cross it or whatever. And I don't think that exists in a lot of these people's minds. They just feel like they can do or say whatever to whoever just because they bought season tickets or because their kid plays on the team. Now, look, I understand that, like, yes, but part of this whole thing is you're giving, like, by putting your kid on this team, you're trusting me with developing your child, or, like, having the safety of your child in my hand. Like, you're trusting me in doing that. And yes, there's a level of, okay, I should be able to talk to coach about this because my kid's on his team. But there is still a fine line of, like, look, allow that kid to go and do these things on their own, to come back full circle with this whole thing of, you know what I mean? Like, sometimes the kid is going to have to wonder what's going on or feel a certain type of way. And you can't be that middleman and kind of always be maneuvering or saying or doing whatever. Like, that's sometimes for you to sit in it in itself. It's parents not feeling like having a level of discomfort that they can't handle. So they go and fly off at the whim or whatever it is. I get it.
What I liked about the brilliance thing was, so if an employee had, like, let's say, an issue with Axe, the CEO, right? And he
Right.
went and talked with the psychologist, and they poured out their thought process. They all know that obviously she's going to communicate with him, but and there is, look, no matter what there is a level of, everyone who is not the psychologist has some level of angling going on sometimes.
Of course.
But and that's part of what makes the show great, right? Like, because her role is in the central of that whole entire thing. But uh but that person also then reports and says to the CEO or quote unquote head coach, hey, listen, so and so was in the office, or the parent was in the office. They talked to me, they expressed this is how they feel about what's going on. I just want you to know that this is what they feel like. Those things down the line, like if you were to open up and say, Dave, I'll give you're operating a high level club, and you had endless budget to do things, that would be the first person that I would interview, like, unless I knew somebody, 50 people in that area. And now I obviously from the podcast, we know a few of them, but I would interview a bunch of those people, figure out the person that would align with trying to be able to help the overall process. Then what she's like, what Georgia said, talk about how I coach, how I run things, blah, 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 blah. Not asking them to judge me, but I want them to know this is how I am. And then you could then, from your interactions with the players, parents, and be able to tell me, you're an open access to them. They got a book appointment, whatever. You have open access to them. You're able to do seminars with them, and they can come to you. And then we can sit down based off of, like, I'm messing up on this. Like, you know what? I've gone like they feel like you haven't been given enough opportunity. But if a parent went directly to a coach, this is the problem with all of it. Parent goes directly. Every coach is on the defense. Like, there's like anyone who says that even the greatest guys in the world are going to be on some level of defense, okay? Because they're doing something in their mind that is the best interest for the team. And sometimes everybody makes mistakes. Everybody forgets about this kid over here. It just happens, okay? Like, everyone's like, oh, it's all malicious. It's not all malicious.
No, it's not.
A lot. Look, there is sometimes when it is malicious, and you want to figure out why that is too, right?
Right.
But like, and that was one of the things that was great about the show. Like, when he sometimes would do things to his employees, right? And she would be like, "Why are you?
What are you doing?
Well, what are you doing? Why are you going in on him? You know what I mean, or her, or whatever? Like, why are you firing them?" And then he would, his rationale would then get precipitated down, which would then get communicated, right or wrong, by the way, because they could be wrong in what they're doing, but right or wrong, it's communicated better than just the coach communicating it, because the coach can everyone, a coach, an athlete, a parent, and an assistant coach all have an agenda within their own world, right? They all have an agenda within their own world of what they're looking to get accomplished. Maybe the head coach is trying to win a championship and it's all about his team. Maybe the assistant coach is trying to win a championship, but trying to figure out if he can, instead of being the DB coach, be the defense coordinator, right? Mm-hmm. The parent, it might be to get my kid to be the starter when they're not the starter. The kid, it might be just to be on the team. Like, you don't know, but that part has to be taken away in the long run from the coach having to address it all the time, and then be able to just problem solve after the information has been kind of regurgitated to them. And then the parents could freely speak. Like, I think a parent could go there and be really disgruntled to this sports psychologist and say every bad thing they feel. Absolutely. And then that person filters it out and says, hey, listen, this part has to be addressed. They came in to address these things, is what they're upset about. I addressed that these things are probably not great things to come to coach about, but this might be something you might want to address. Like, and I think that would help in the escalation of sports. Like, everything has a cause and effect. The effect of everybody playing sports is that it is highly overwhelming for any person running a program without having all kinds of money, like a college or a professional team. Mm-hmm. It's a lot. It's a lot for a high school coach. That's why you see high school coaches jumping out. It has nothing to do with their ability to coach the game. It has to do with there's no buffer zone. The AD is not your buffer zone. You might have a great AD. He's willing to do that, right? Del Dapra, the greatest thing since sliced bread, okay, in the short time I was with him, was willing to do that, okay? Most ADs don't have the time or willingness to do that, right? They just end up judging you as a coach, all right? And they may have been saying, this is not worth, this is too much stress. You know what I mean? This is too much. I don't want to deal with this stress. I don't want to. We just get another coach in there, right? And that's not the right best. This guy might have been the greatest coach in sliced bread, and because he's tough or something like that, and you don't want to deal with that as an AD, you get rid of this guy. Dude, I heard the RBR basketball coach is no longer at RBR. Am I correct about that?
Who, Truhan?
Not Truhan.
Oh, the other, the boys
The
coach?
legend. The legend. What's the legendary guy? The guy who was just the guy who used to be from Rumson.
Oh, the basketball or football?
Basketball. The guy who built RBR into a great.
Oh, I don't know, buddy. I don't know. I'm not privy to that. I could find that out.
Yeah, and I think he's back at Rumson. Okay, but like, think about it. That guy's a legend. Because
dude, Greg Toll got fired.
That's what I'm saying. Greg Toll got right, because sometimes
Warren Wolf got pushed out at the end of his career. Like Joe Paterno
got pushed out
Joe Paterno, Bobby Bowden. Like these guys, like
think about it.
What have you done for me lately?
If there was a buffer for some of these people as they got older and were so good, and they had a way they went about things that was so successful, and the world was changing, could a lot of these guys have coached all the way through until they wanted to retire? Yes. But what happened was, in the urgency of how these things are going in the modern times, the easier thing for an athletic director becomes to just move them out of the system, no matter how great a coach they are. And there's a void. See, to me, there's a void when Greg, now obviously Dan Sabell's a great coach. He's there now, right? But there becomes a void for those players because people don't get to experience what Greg Toll was as a coach, which was unbelievable.
Right.
They don't get to experience it until he was ready to retire. Okay. Now I'm not talking about if someone goes insane, like that's different. I'm saying this person's older and is not willing to change. Well, maybe there's something that this person has, this knowledge that an elder has that is tremendous, that cannot be replaced. Bobby Bowden doesn't have elder knowledge.
Right.
Joe Paterno doesn't have elder knowledge. Now, that was a different situation because of the whole thing with the Sandusky stuff, but like there's countless cases. I mean, there's thousands and thousands and thousands throughout time, right? Like there's a way. Let those guys who might be slowing down moving wise, it's not how they can move that's important for those guys. It's their brain, what they have, their knowledge of how to motivate and how to deliver. And the truth is, the oldest people don't move as well, but they have wisdom that can help teams succeed at a greater level. When I listen to Saban talk, when I listen to the guy in Indiana talk, like, you're telling me a 40-year-old can speak the way that Curt Cignetti speaks? Just let's be honest. Like, come on. Cignetti has that experience from all of those years. And he happens to also have a lot of the other tool sets. Imagine Cignetti never getting the opportunity because people thought he was old. He would not have gotten the opportunity if he stayed at Division I. If he didn't go down to Division II and take the head job at Indiana University of PA, we would never have Curt Cignetti.
Right.
If he didn't just at some point say, you know what, this is my only path to be a head coach because I'm starting to get older. No one's going to give me this opportunity. He wasn't until he was 50 years old that he then decided, oh, I want to be a head coach. And wait a minute, no one's going to give me this opportunity. I'm not going to get advanced. I'm pigeonholed for whatever reason. This guy is unbelievable. He potentially is the next Nick Saban. Who knows if he will be, but potentially, like the way that his thought process is, his confidence, yep. It's unbelievable. It's almost like he's talking shit every single week.
Every time.
He's like a coach's version of talking shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The guy is unbelievable, and he gets the players to do things. And people are like, "Is it his system?" Dude, he practices for an hour and 40 minutes. Hour and 40 minutes.
Yep.
Is it what he practices? No, it's, dude, what is he doing from a ability to get guys to believe, putting the pieces in the right places, motivational aspect, the guys he hires, who those people are. It's amazing. He has one of he has a guy on his staff that is the co-offensive coordinator, I think, or I don't know if he's passing game coordinator, that played at UConn as a quarterback, but he got injured. And he used to come to my events back today. He was like one of my original guys that we like kind of really like championed. He went somewhere Division I originally, and then he ended up at UConn. I think that's where he finished his career. But this guy has moved up. It's unbelievable what he's done. Chandler Whitmer, if you look him up, it's unbelievable what he's done. But you know what? As a personality, that kid had that personality at 16, dude. At 16, he was like personable. He would ask how you were. You would be like, how is this kid like? Forget about it. He was a very good quarterback. Obviously he was Division I quarterback, but you would say to yourself, this kid could be like a great coach. When he was 16. Anyway, that was great. She's great. She probably would like to come on a part 3 and do it.
She loved it. She loved it. She's like,
segment.
hey man, whatever, like anytime, like whatever, let's get on. And even as things like come up or if something new or whatever, she's, I told her like, hey, if there's something that you're seeing more of or a trend or whatever, like let's go do it and like hop on and we can talk about it because it would be great.
We should have I think she would be one of the people, you could put this down as one of your things, who would be a good monthly segment to talk about things that are happening, like
trends
once a month,
or what's going on. Yeah, absolutely.
Like have her come on. Seasonal, yeah. Like what are baseball players dealing with? What are what are these people dealing with? And she would be, I think, a really good person from that standpoint, because that whole part of it, like, I don't know, there's so much there. Like I can't believe how many videos. I don't know if you get the same feed as me, probably.
Oh yeah,
TikTok.
oh yeah. It's everybody's an expert now, and it's incredible.
I listen to it and I'm like, what is their experience to be like making, like, I make claims and stuff, but I don't make claims anything other than my experience. You know what I mean? Like I'll say, this is what I think from what I've seen or what I've done or what I experienced with my own kid. You know what I mean? Or things that I make a mistake on, guys, though, I see on there make blanket statements with zero like frame of references. Even some of the people, like, it still sticks in my crawl when someone says a parent shouldn't try to motivate their kid to perform or to want to do things athletically. Like, that's the most ludicrous statement I've ever heard in my life. It should have to be if you have to motivate them 24/7, then maybe they're gonna have to find something else to do. I get that. But like, who doesn't wake up in the morning sometimes and say, I don't want to do this? Like, that to me is someone who's never had any level of success. Like, listen, winter workouts, I can tell you this. I didn't want to go once, okay? Not one time. And you probably felt the same way. I did not want to go to something that I was going to run about 9,000 sprints and 50,000 up downs and back pedals. And I know I was going to basically be ready to throw up at some point. No one says, oh, I can't wait to go to that. Right?
Right.
I mean,
I get it.
Who would say that? And that's what, like, when I see guys on like TikTok spouting like someone doesn't need motivation, like sometimes a parent can be like, hey man, like you just got to get there and work. I get it. It's it's tough, right?
Right.
But like, and they can serve as a level of motivation, not just a level of understanding, a level of motivation. Like sometimes you got to say, hey, get your butt over here, and we're going to study this test. Like, it's not acceptable to get average grades. Like,
right.
I don't know how, and then I see like people like so many and then people are like, why is the world screwed up? Why is the world screwed up?
That's exactly why.
That's why, because everyone's like, yeah, don't, don't motivate your kids, right? Everything's like this extreme, like, oh, travel ball parents are bad. Travel ball parents are great. Like, I mean,
Right.
it's this high school coach is the greatest high school coach of all time. He's the worst high school coach of all time. Like, isn't there a level of like, okay, he does some things really well. There might be something he doesn't do well. This guy does some things not as good as the other guy. Maybe he could do this better. And that's I think that's a big part of it. And I think coaches have to be willing to adapt what they're doing, and that's, I think, a big part of going forward as a coach. Like, I'm not talking even about scheme, although sometimes you should have to adapt that. I'm talking about like what you're doing with this team, what drill you're doing, how you're handling the players, how what your expectation levels is. Like, it's when if everyone wants to win a state championship, and you could have that as your main goal, but each team, you have to help them understand what is the first step before you get to the end step. Like, and people who don't do that, because everyone think, oh, well, we didn't win the state championship, we suck.
Yep.
Isn't that crazy? I mean, that must be crazy to
I'm
you.
telling you.
Oh, we didn't win the state championship.
It's crazy, dude. It's like it's all or bust, and people just don't understand. Like, and it's what have you done for me lately, right? Like, that's the biggest part. Like, it's all so like now. But in reality, it's like, look, man, look at how people are growing or building or whatever. It's like there needs to be some leeway of like, hey, there's going to be a time where you have to trust it and be in it. It's just everything needs to happen now for some people, and that's a problem.
It has to happen now. Obviously, look, when people look at college football, the job description, because of what it is, what they've made it, is a win now job description, because whoever pays the most is going to get more of the better athletes, and those guys who pay the most are probably going to be expected to win more, right?
Yep.
And that's just kind of the nature. Now, high school is not, maybe at the parochials, where there is a level of like, we can go get this player or we can go get that player. I can understand, where people might say, okay, well, we've been able to get all these players, we should do pretty well or have a chance to win it. I'm not saying I agree with it or disagree with it. I'm just saying I could understand the thought process. When you're at a public school, you have to say, okay, where are we now? Where are we going? What does this guy do really well? What can he improve? Not just throw the baby out with the bathwater every single time. Like, it's like, okay. Now, again, that's why I think the thing that's hard for an AD, I think it's hard for an AD, without someone who they could talk to, is that, like, if the AD is pounding on the coach all the time,
All the time,
or doing no pounding, right? And then all of a sudden,
right? And then it's like, hey, what have you done? And it's like, whoa, I didn't know whatever.
I didn't know I was doing bad. Right.
Correct.
I never even knew I was doing bad. Wait a minute, what? You know what I mean? So that part of it is and the whole, like, if you didn't win the championship, you're a failure thing. All I think about all the time on it is you've seen the movie not Days of Thunder, with Will Ferrell, the
Talladega Nights.
Talladega Nights, where it's where he was like, what was it, says you're either first or you're last, right?
If you're not
like,
first, you're last.
right. That mindset, we laughed at that 20 years ago.
Now that's what it is.
We literally, that's what the whole, if you really watch the point of that's why comedy's great, dude. By the way, it's so easy to put messaging in there with comedy, right?
Oh, yeah.
The message of Talladega Nights was he found peace when he had balance in what he was doing. He still wanted to win, right? But he now allowed his teammate to have an opportunity to win. Like, it was really him finding balance in the world because he had imbalance. And and when he did, all of a sudden didn't win. This is always my thing. Your kid always wins a championship. Okay, great. What happens when now he doesn't win a championship? Oh, he wants to quit.
Right.
Because
that's all you've ever preached is you got to win. 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 Somebody's got to come in second. Like, and you need to understand and learn what that feels like, or know what it's like to be at the bottom of the pack, or whatever that is. Like, look, I told you, I've expressed numerous times, it was really hard to make an adjustment from always like being around winning is winning and actually winning, and then going to programs where, like, hey, being 500 is okay. Like, it's just so different.
Right. And I don't think the mentality of being 500 is okay, but I do think the perspective on the roadmap to getting successful is important. Like,
absolutely.
Like, I think she strive to be better, but you should also have a roadmap and know where you are, where you're going, and that everybody, if you hired XYZ coach, whatever the coach is, when you hired me, do we know that there's a roadmap here? Are we in agreement that there's a roadmap here? That, like, we could win a championship tomorrow night doesn't mean we have a program. You know what I mean? Like, there's a difference. There are teams that literally, Florida State was the best example of this. They went undefeated that first year with Nolan, or second year, whatever it was. The next year they won one game. They didn't have a program. They got a lot of players that came to them that were great already. So they went back to the bottom right after that. And there's a balance to it all. That's what, like, I mean, you're right. That's everything is boom or bust. It's all like,
all or nothing.
We won a championship. We're the greatest. Oh, we finished second. We suck. It's like,
I agree.
You finished second. Like, I think about all these kids that never, kids who win. There's also a perspective of youth sports. In youth sports, there's a group of kids in every town that win most of the time.
100%.
And then they get to high school and maybe
they don't win.
They meet another town that is better than they are. And they're like, oh, I'm quitting. The coach sucks. Or it's like, no, you've just won a lot because you were better than most of the people in your town.
Absolutely.
Doesn't mean you're better than everybody else.
Doesn't mean you're better. But same thing. Like, hey, I rushed for 1,000 yards in, Bergen County. But guess what, buddy? There's a lot of guys around the country that have rushed for 1,000 yards. So I don't think that constitutes you getting a scholarship.
There's no doubt about it. When people are like,
get outside of your little protective bubble.
I use this,
and that's where I understand travel sports and all that. Like, that's where I get
that's
that.
that's
And
what
look,
it's good for. Absolutely.
First-hand reference, again, like small town USA, grow up in Butler, go play AAU basketball. Whoa, like shit. Okay. Like, I started as a freshman on varsity in Butler, but guess what? I'm the sixth man coming off the bench on this AAU team. Like, okay. And we're playing against this guy, that guy, like guys, right? And so eye-opening stuff. I think it's so important, but I also think, like, hey man, if you just want to be a rec kid and like play sports and have some fun, like, that's really okay too. Right. I'm curious because I'd love to ask her at what point, right, or what age or whatever it is, like, do you now take it and say, all right, you don't want to play baseball, right? And you want to go do something else. At what point do you allow that to be the end all be all? Or is it, hey, well, you're going to play baseball and give that little bit of a push because you kind of know that's what's best for it? I'm sure my old man struggled with that when I tried to kind of made that decision in 6th grade. But I also think, like, he saw firsthand, like, hey, I'm putting you on this all-star baseball team, and I was pissed. And then when we lost, I was doing cartwheels literally physically after the game of like, I don't have to play baseball anymore. Right. And I think at that point he was kind of like, all right, I think it is time that he really doesn't want to do this anymore. I'm not going to force him. I also was like, hey, I really want to play more football or more basketball, right? So I think he was conscious of like, look, at least it's not like he's saying I don't want to do baseball anymore and do nothing. I want to now fill that void with more of something else. And at that time, more football wasn't really an option. So hey, you're going to play AAU basketball.
I think that's a great point.
And I'm sure I think you have to know your kid, right? Like, the feedback you get from, like, you know what I'm saying? Or just kind of
it takes time to learn your kid too. Sometimes kids are like, I don't know how you
kids are funny, bro. Like, shit changes. Like, they might be in their feels that day, or you know what I mean? Like, maybe they had a bad game and now they don't really want to, but then like all of a sudden but I still think you're in that limbo spot of like, hey, maybe, okay, or maybe you don't have to play this level of baseball, but you can do this, right? Or, I think there's some of that where you can mismatch or kind of figure it out and keep the kid doing things that you want him as the parent to do, but the kid just doesn't know that it's like the right thing for him. Because how many times do you see a sophomore in football in high school quit because they just went through a whole year of being a tackling dummy as a scout team guy, when you're like, hey man, if you just push through this year, you're gonna be a really good, and they just don't see it, they do it, and then they kind of give it up, and then all of a sudden senior year they're like, man, I should have played my junior year, or I should have played sophomore year, right? And you're kind of in that, like, you wish that parents would push a little bit more, but like, when is the pushing too much? When is it like, I think that's a really, really hard freaking question.
It's very hard. I think it's very, like, when we gave up fall ball this year, like after the first
Greg
game,
Olson has talked about that, bro. Like on his podcast about his kids being baseball kids and look, like, being football guys. And hey, it's football season, but you're not going to play fall ball, or you're not, or you're only going to get swings in or whatever. But also he would go back and forth where if my kids aren't specializing in baseball because they're playing football, are they going to be behind? Because, Billy, who doesn't play football, is still playing fall ball and going to pitching lessons and all that. Like, that's a really hard thing, dude.
When I asked, so we did the decision because it was foot. You know what I mean? We said you can't do it.
Right. Right now, that's, I think, a little bit different.
But what I noticed was, I said to him after football season was over, I said, hey, did you miss not playing baseball? His answer was no. So I'm like, okay.
There you go.
So I'm like, you know what? Maybe we should just play, even though he's pretty talented in baseball, we should just play rec baseball. Like, I just basically said to myself, you know what? If he wants to play more baseball, he'll tell me. You know what I mean? Like he'll tell me that he'll want like because when he said he didn't miss it, I'm like, he didn't miss it. Now maybe when the spring comes, maybe he thinks to himself, I want to play a lot of baseball. At that point,
Of
I will then
course.
readdress that and say, okay, he likes baseball within. Now, my kid's different than a lot of kids in that he thinks still in his head, each sport has its season. So even though he likes obviously football the most right now, he still thinks, okay, we should be really more focused on basketball than football, even though I'll do some football stuff, but I don't want it to take away from basketball. So that's kind of
Right.
how he thinks about it. I'm curious when we get to baseball season if he says, oh, I'd like to be on a travel team again, or he's just when he plays like recreation, he's content. If he's content, then I'm like, you know what? That's it. We are done. If he says if he doesn't say anything about travel ball, then I'm like, cool. We'll play rec. And if he
I do also think that
I'm not going to worry about that as being a main sport until he then makes it a main sport.
But Dave,
again.
I also think this too adds to it something that parents have to kind of sit in their own shit with is that if your kid wants to do these things, right? Like there is a level of that's monetary where you may not have the money for it. And you know what? Like that really sucks to have to sit in it and realize like, hey, as a parent, I'm not giving my kid what they want or the opportunity to go and do certain things. Like now I really got to look at myself and be like, man, you should do better. Like, and I think a lot of parents, that sucks. And look, it scares me. I mean, look, even
or you have to be willing to if you can,
or the self-sacrifice
in yourself.
Well, that's
like,
the part.
Have
Dave,
to play baseball with them.
Or guess what? Like, or the self-sacrifice of like, I know if I do this personally, my weekends are going to be in a chair at a game or traveling or doing right? Like now I'm on a whole different level when it comes to that. Like my head coach has opened my eyes to that about like, hey, it is not about you anymore. Like if your kid wants to do it, you find a way to freaking do it because it is their life experience right now. Like you've gone through this, you've had your time of whatever, like you make that work for them to give them those opportunities that maybe you didn't get. And that's not any fault of your parents. It just might be the situations you were in. But look, for me, like I remember wanting that pair of basketball shoes that were $115 because like I just wanted them. And you know what? It was like, hey, now look, I'm sure my parents could have made that work, but it was, hey, if you want them, then you're going to do something to get that. Right. So that teaches lessons in itself of like, hey, you're not always going to have the gloves or the shoes that guy has. But you know what? Like you could work to get it. You know what I'm saying? I think that some of that too, but that's really hard for a parent, man, to sit and be like, shit, dude, I can't have my kid on this team because, dude, I can't pay $3,000 to join this. You know what I'm like? I
can't pay $10,000.
Now, look, are there ways? And here's the other thing. And look, we've talked about this off air or whatever it is. Like we're also not the people that are going to go start like a GoFundMe page so Billy can join this team and travel to Texas. Like we're not going to ask for that. Some people, hey, if you're willing to do that and put yourself out there like that, oh, kudos to you, I guess. But that's not just how I was raised. I wasn't raised to just ask for help. It was, hey, if you want something,
that's why we do like when we do like our 7 Club, like we do the one fundraiser because we make our fee is so low relative to everybody else that
because we want to give everybody those opportunities.
Do it, I'd have to then turn around and charge them. So
correct. Like so, and we also say, here's the option, man. Like we have this fund. Like, look, if you want to just pay up front for all of it, sure, good.
Yep.
But you know what? If you don't, here's an option for you. Right. And here's what we can do and all that kind of stuff. Like we will try everything we can to help you get ultimately what we all want. And that's to give your kid a better opportunity. And I think a lot of these guys, that's not a thing. It's a money grab. It's, whatever it is or whoever. Cause like, most parents are like, I don't know, man. Like that's just a lot. It's a lot, because you're talking about fees, and then, you know, uniforms and travel, and then like just gear in general of like whatever it is. And it's a lot. So
It's a lot.
that's hard for parents to kind of sit in their own shit and be like, damn, like I would love for my kid to do this, and I know he would love it, but we just can't. And now that has to be a conversation with your kid of like, hey man, like,
There
I'm
might be
sorry.
clubs that you can like that's, you know what I mean, that you can go to.
Well, that too, right? But
Yeah,
then, you
like
know, is it the one that they want, or is it the best? You know, like now you have to be like, look, like you're not going to do that one, but you can do this one,
you
or
can do this
something of
one.
that, you know. But you used to always fall back on, all right, well, if nothing else, you can play rec because it's in town and it's whatever.
No rack,
That's not
dude.
there anymore, dude.
I could tell you this too, which is interesting. Like I have a friend that you know, used to his kids in high school now, and he used to ask me for the year. Like I would always tell him like, you should start them working out. You know, I don't want to over. I'm like, you should start them working out. Like, I'm not saying it to you because I'm trying to tell you that uh they're going to be pro athletes or anything. But the place that you live, there's athletes there. They're going to have a hard time making some of the teams that they currently play. And I said, you know, they would always talk to me about, hey, you know, I should go get speed training. I should come to you and learn. You know, my kids don't really run. I'm like, you should do it. Like, I'm not going to be doing it because I don't run that anymore. That stuff. But like, you should go do it. You should find a place that you can go do it because it's going to happen quick. Well, here's my kind of story here. Now he's a great guy. You know, whatever if his kids are, you know, they'll find something they can do. But his kids were very disappointed in high school early first couple of years because they couldn't make these teams. And I would tell them, I'm like, this is the race you're in. Like, you you can't get caught in like this guy isn't fair to your kid or blah 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 blah. Not that he complained too much. It was just like, hey, they're not really playing him. I'm like, they're not playing him because in whatever in their mind, okay. I'm not saying it's reality or not, okay. In their mind, he's not doesn't look like he should be as good or is as good as these kids, right?
Right.
I say this to my own kid. If they put you over here instead of over here, okay, if I'm not like, you know what I mean? It's because they're looking at you and they perceive you to be this. If you want to be that, you're going to have to go over and above to show them that you're that. If you don't, it's never going to change their perception. Now, me, if you play for me, okay, the majority of the kids that I coach, I probably look and evaluate the different things they're doing over time, which helps me make better decisions as a coach. Not every coach is going to do that. With my own kid, obviously, I know what my own kid can do and what he can't do. So I'm going to put him in a better position to succeed when I'm coaching him. I mean, that's just the reality of it, right? Okay. A lot of people don't realize now. My buddy, he was hard for him his first like the first year or two in high school with his kids because he went to my school in high school. He was a starting middle linebacker. He played Division III football. He wasn't like a world beater, but he was a college level player. He played college baseball too. Okay. He came from a world that we grew up in where you could play rec pretty much through and there wasn't that much travel. And if you were better than guys because you worked a little bit more than the other guys, the other guy was going to go work as a mechanic, then you were going to play. Well, like I said, like we've talked about many times, that mechanic kid, his kid is working at sports now. So in the old days, he would have become a mechanic like his father. No, he's working at sports. So he's training. So now you're competing with all those kids now. So even though you might have been better because your parents were more focused on sports in an era where not everybody was focused on sports, it doesn't work like that. I tell that to my wife. Like now, that's kind of how it is. Okay.
Mhm.
So I felt really bad. You know, I don't even like. I kind of step around it because he's my friend,
Right.
but he should have, when they were 12, had them lifting. He should have had them running. Even if he didn't want to pay for somebody, you can go in your backyard and teach him to run. I mean, come on. Like, let's be honest. It burdens your life a little bit. You get home at 6:00. You're tired. You don't want to, as a parent, sometimes you don't want to do the work. I heard this. Now he's a little bit over the top, and I wanted to bring this up to Georgia because I forgot. St. Brown,
yeah, Elijah.
His father, the sons have
the
a
one
podcast.
That's at am I thinking St. Hilaire? I'm thinking St. Hilaire.
St. Brown, they're in the NFL, the receiver.
The one that said drink a Coke, drink a Coke,
yes.
Drink a Coca-Cola.
He is so interesting because he's not like,
he was big on the powerlifting, I think, right?
He's big into hard work.
I think that's what he was. Yes, he's big into that. Absolutely.
He was a bodybuilder.
Both brothers are in the league, right? Like both ones.
2 or 3.
Right. The one on the Lions is really kind of like the big dog. But they do it, and they I think do their own podcast.
So the brothers have a podcast, and they bring the father on periodically. I mean, if you could find any, like, his stuff is great, and I'll tell you what's great about it. Like, look, people would say that he's an over the top father, but I don't view him that way because he's not like. First of all, his kids are obviously wildly successful, and obviously there's a level of talent there too. But I don't view him like the LeVar Ball, who, by the way, has kind of been proven right on a certain amount of things himself. He's just so over the top. It's hard to stomach him sometimes. St. Brown is a lot easier to stomach. Like, he talks about things rationally, and you might view him as a little bit over the top. But what he says, like, he talks about, like, he said his kids, he worked them hard from the time they were young. Like, they were like, he was obviously a bodybuilder. He knew how to lift correctly and all these type of things. He was Mr. Universe. His kids lifted from the time they were very, very young.
Yep.
He was running with them and drills with them from the time they were very, very young. And he talks about how important that is. And he says, listen, you could view me however you want. He's like, the bottom line, a lot of kids don't get better because the parents are lazy. Meaning, they think they got to go. They got to give a trainer. They got to go to train. He's like, I put in the work with my kids. I work them, not
like
somebody else.
Like, hey, I don't need to send this guy.
They go to trainers.
Here's a perfect reference for you, right? And I think I've told you this before. Like, I had a kid last year, look, JV kid, whatever it was, but he wanted to come in the mornings to work out at 5:30 a.m. And mom literally emailed coaches and said, hey, my kid will be there. I know you expect 4 days a week and whatever. My kid will be there all 4 days. But I'm not waking up every morning and driving him in the morning. I will wake up 2 days a week and bring him at 5:30. But the rest of it, he can go after school and do whatever because I, as the mom, am not waking up to drive him. Was very open and honest about it. But that's the example. That's exactly what we're talking about. Whereas I have some other guys that were like, Coach, I don't know how you did it or what you did, but amen to you. You got my son to literally come at 5:30 in the morning every morning. And look, does it suck having to wake up and me drive him? Absolutely. But the switch that you flipped in him and to see the growth of him on a different level with the commitment of coming in the morning and what that's done, like, I will gladly wake up at 5:30 and bring him, right? So that's the opposite ends of the spectrum when you're looking at it from the broad. It's the same thing when I told you about, hey, like, I just got a vacation for my kid for his birthday, but it's in the middle of the season and we're going on a cruise in the middle of the year and he's going to miss a game. Well, your kid loves this sport. Like, what's he supposed to tell you to do? Like, piss off because you did this? Like, you know, is that a selfish move where you're putting mom or dad? Like, you know what I mean? Like, to me, that's like, you could take a figure out a way to take a vacation another time, right? Because ultimately, like, what's the blowback?
In high school,
took a vacation.
Never.
Like,
maybe I went to the beach for a day.
Right. But you know what I did? Like, we would go on a vacation. We never went, like, look, I never went to Disney World until I was 20 something years old and out of school. Like, right. That's just not.
Every time I went to Disney World I was there for the national track championships.
I'm just telling you. Right. Like, we would use, look, if my father played high level fast pitch softball competitive until God for how as long dude, when he had a tournament, we would go with him. And that was a pseudo vacation. He would play games, we would go and watch, and like wherever it was, whether it was Maryland, Vermont, like these that was quote vacation. And you know what, dude? Like I didn't know any different. It was awesome, right? Like I didn't need to go to Aruba or any of this other shit, right? Like, or if we did go, which was usually down here where my grandmother lived and had relocated, like we would come down here for a week in June as soon as school ended when there wasn't really anything organized going on. And then you know what? Like that was vacation. Came down here for a week and then why? Because football started. And that's just what it was. But parents are so quick to kind of put themselves first. And, you know, and look, I see how my sister does it. Like, look, like they value experiences over certain things, right? So if she has to take them out of school or they miss school on Friday or a Monday, like
who cares?
See you later, bro. Like, what's the difference? I totally look, and I totally agree with her as well. Like, Derek, like I'm never gonna get this time back.
3 days of like them sitting there in class, like,
and that's the other part. Like, juice worth the squeeze. Like, what are they really missing? You know what I mean? Or they can make up that work or do virtual whatever the frick. You know what I'm saying? Like, there are ways now to do that shit. Like, they don't have to be there all the time. I'd rather us go to Florida or wherever it is because that experience is something that's going to resonate with them more than, hey, you got to go to school on Friday or you can't this or whatever. Like,
I'll tell you this, because there's so many games and stuff for youth and high school kids on the weekend, when you're out of season or whatever, you might be better off going like a Monday to Thursday somewhere.
There are school systems that have now gone to 4-day-a-week school, right? Monday through Thursday, Friday you're off. Here you go. I mean, look, I think our school schedule where I'm at right now is amazing because they're out of school at 1:30 at the high school level. Like they're done. I think that's a game changer. But to look at somehow some people have structured. I mean, look, SJV, same type of thing, right? Like every Friday, like their school schedule, they would get out at 2:30, but every Friday school was like basically a half day and they were done at 12:30 every Friday. Here you go.
I think that
which now gives your kid a jump on, you know, getting to that tournament. That's whatever. And you're not rushing around.
People basically pay for a babysitter. That's what school is. Okay. I mean,
look, as an educator, and look, we've had these conversations.
You're paying taxes for a personal babysitter that's teaching you things.
Yep. And that you can learn on your own, or if you're a really good parent.
And that's good. Actually, I don't think that's a bad thing, to be honest. Because parents have to work, right? So
that's another game changer though, Dave, right? Like look, the 2-parent household of, you know, dad works, mom takes care of the kids. Like that's not, both parents are usually working. If you have both parents, right? Like the quote nuclear family of mom, dad, kids, here's what it is, sit down for dinner every night. That's not, I would look at it and say the majority of people have other aspects into their lives, whether it's just mom, just dad, maybe it's, you know, mom and grandma or aunts or uncle or great, like whoever, like the traditional 1950s mom home, dad at work. Like mom really is the sole caretaker. Dads are you have stay-at-home dads and mom goes to work. Or dude, there's just so many different dynamics of how families work and run. And look, again, it's just like coaching. Everybody, like there's a million ways to do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, and be successful at it. It's just figuring out which one works best for you or your kid or your family or whatever it is. You know what I'm saying? Like,
well, I think they have to find their journey. You have to do, you know, you got to do what you think is best for your kid. You also do want to teach them the team aspects of sports. So you want them to be able to have, if they like a certain place, like even when you feel, this is the hardest thing because I feel like this a lot. Okay, even when you feel he might be better or she might be better going to this team or that team, if they are enjoying it, you have to
Yes.
value that more. The only
Right.
time that really should start to change is if a kid says to you, I really like the kids I play with, for example, but I feel like I can do more if I had more. I don't know what that is. I'm just saying, like, then you say,
Right.
then you go and you say, okay, my kid likes his team, but he wants better competition, let's say, okay, whatever more is. Then you could say, okay, you got to evaluate, okay, this is a good experience. He likes this experience. He has expressed that he wants more. Then we have to figure out what does more look like. Okay. And then is that
And
another
that's
team?
your job.
Yes, that's your job to figure it out. If you think he should have more, a better team or something, he's happy where he is, and he doesn't mention anything to you, doesn't think that like he's unhappy. He enjoys the experience. Even if you think he should do something more, you're gonna have to let it lie at least for a while, a year or two, whatever. He may come to you at a different time and feel differently. But if he doesn't, you're better off having him happy where he is. Okay? It's not gonna be that much, at least at the youth level, it's not going to be that much more. And even at the high school level, sometimes moving here to here is not going to be that much more. Okay. If he says, hey, I'd like to go here for more. If he says, coach is screwing me, okay, you have to ask the question, how is coach screwing you? Please explain this to me. Don't just go, yeah, he's screwing you. Okay. He doesn't let you play a position. Have you asked him for another position? Yes, I asked him. He won't let me do it. Okay. Have you done what it takes to be good enough in that position that you now want to be in? I just think I should play here because I want to play here. That's not a good enough answer. Okay. The answer should be, I've done everything. I've done all the work, and there is some issue there for whatever reason. Maybe coach just doesn't view you there. Okay.
Right.
Georgia said, ask him again. Go ask him again. You know, I know it's hard for even a young kid. I know it's hard. Go ask him again. You've asked him a second time. He does now probably have to give you a better answer as to why he's not going to put you there. It might annoy the coach. It's okay. He'll forget about it 2 seconds later. All right. You go and ask him, and he says, listen, I need you to play this position. We don't have anybody else to play this position. You come back to the parent, and he says that, and most parents are going to be like, hey, listen, it's not because he doesn't like you. He actually needs you here. It's actually a compliment to you. Maybe in the future we can readdress this, but it's not because he doesn't like you. It's not because he doesn't want to play you. It's because he doesn't have any more of this type of person, and you got to have to fill that role for this time period. It doesn't mean forever, okay? For this time period. Now, in the old days, I would even as a coach, I would say, hey man, you're a lineman. Like, I would say, hey, this year we need you as a lineman. Next year, we start doing the skill stuff in the off season.
Right.
You want to
do
play
it?
wide receiver and catch balls, and you could show me that you're the wide receiver guy. You're good enough to be a wide receiver. Go. Absolutely, go do it, dude. And you know what? If you are better than somebody else, I'm gonna play you there. Okay. And you know what? Even better, if you started here and you now want to play wide receiver, okay, and you were like a tight end or you were a D end, and now you want to move.
Listen,
you better find your replacement, and you better train your replacement.
Dave, it's funny because I was listening to the beginning of Busting with the Boys this morning. They had Ed Ogeron on, and he was talking about how when Warren Sapp came to them, he spent his entire redshirt year as a tight end, right? Running around, as a tight end, and they had to recruit him once he was on the team to be a D lineman. And now, obviously, once he got in that world, he's running a 4.6 at 250 pounds, like, you know what I mean? It's more whatever. But like, he just talked about how, like, dude, this guy was a freaking tight end when he got to us. And it was like, all right, now you're a Hall of Famer, D lineman, pretty much, changed the entire position. But like, that was just, you know what I mean? So those things happen, and I get it. Look, we talk about it in middle school.
They let him run around for a year until he realized,
okay,
you want to be great, you got to come over here.
Yep. Absolutely. Now we can really get into it, dude. Like, here we go. And I think that's part of it too. Like, the kids, they're going to buy in more if you give them that opportunity to either succeed or fail at what, quote, they want to do. There needs to be a level of like, hey, you should be this, but you know what? Okay, we'll give you can kind of, I don't want to say trick them into it, but it's the same. I compare it to the same thing. If we want guys to run, line them up next to somebody else or make it a competition, make it a game, right? It's the same type of thing when it comes to all of that. Like, hey man, I know you think you're the point guard, but you're probably a center, but guess what? Like, bring the ball up a couple times and I'm okay. You know what I mean? Like, and then we can kind of go from there.
And I think coaches should be open to that part. Like I
agree too, because when you give your players a certain level of voice or opinion, you know what I'm saying? Like, when you incorporate how they're feeling or their beliefs or what they want to do into your decision, it's not that old school militant I'm going to tell you what to do and you're going to do it. And I don't need to give you a reason why. That's just not how kids operate anymore, man. And you can't bullshit them because they'll go and just grab their phone after practice and be like, coach said this, research it and be like, that's not true. Like, they know right away,
Absolutely.
And look, as a coach, starting in this profession, that wouldn't have been the way in the world for me. Like, no, dude, you're going to do what I tell you.
Right.
Having come full circle with it, buddy. Now
I was always like, even though I was like, okay, this is where you got to go, but I was always like, go ahead, try it. I was then.
I've realized it's not
surprised sometimes by guys like
me too. Like, I'm like, oh, maybe you can punt, right? Like, okay, you're my starting offensive tackle. Maybe you can boom a kickoff into the end zone, dude. Okay, coach, I
was wrong.
I know you're gonna think I'm insane, but like, so and so's the backup kicker. He might wear number 79, but he can put that shit in the end zone. So, all right, coach, if that's what it is, and look. Coach, you can watch him. Like, hey, look at this guy over here. Like, he's 4 for 5 on touchbacks right now. Okay.
You know how we ended up with our one of our corners at the end of the year. Okay, he was because we have a lot of skill kids, and he was playing center and a little bit of tight end, but really he's like a center on the offensive line and playing DN. Okay, in flag. In the fall, that Friday night flag fall league.
Yeah.
The first game, I wasn't coaching it, but the guy who was coaching it couldn't be there, so I coached the first game. And we were up by a lot, and I just started giving the ball to each kid, like, handed it off to him. I'm like, let me hand the ball off here to Parker. Let's see how fast Parker is. He took the ball, and he stepped out and outran everybody 45 yards and I immediately called my defense coordinator and I said,
guess what, buddy?
We're gonna work in this kid at defensive back, okay? And let's see if he can do it, because I just watched him run the ball and he's a bullet. So I didn't know that, because he's like, in practice, he kind of like he's in his second year with us in football, but he doesn't say anything. He's sometimes like he'll make a really nice play, but then he'll be shy for a few plays. You know what I mean? Like, he's still learning. But when he did that, well, dude, by the end of the year, he was our starting corner, and huge plays in the semifinal game, like huge plays, like he was beat and he reacted and he came back and knocked the ball down. I was like, yes. And the coach turned to me and I said, that's why you don't ever close yourself off completely on things. Like, that's the reason why you don't close. You 100%. Give them a chance. Hey, if they fail there, what's the worst that happens? You send them back to defensive end. Who cares?
Absolutely.
You just send them right back. And, you know,
absolutely.
Some guys are like, oh, no, I'm like, just try him here. If he's not good, we could put him back where he was. Okay.
Absolutely.
It's not hard to put him back where he was. But if he is good, it might solve a problem we've been having. Correct. You know, and one of the problems was we had a choice of safety that's a taller person. We didn't have any tall corner. Our one corner was very good, but he's small, but he's very good. We needed one tall corner, but we couldn't figure out one that could run. You know what I'm saying? That could really run. And when that happened, I was like, I don't know if he can or can't, but I know he can run. So maybe he can, you know what I mean? And with kids, what is great about kids, especially when they're youth and high school kids, he might be able to do that this year. Next year, he may not be able to do that. Maybe he's got to be somewhere else. Like, you don't
absolutely.
They all continue to grow. Like 1 year this guy is this, and the next year this guy is that. Like, it happens all the time. And in college, it happens. I was a tailback in high school. I was a fullback in college who ended up being a linebacker, but in my last 2 years, like, you know, it's crazy how those things happen. You can't be able. Travis Kelce was a quarterback when he went to Cincinnati, and he did not play other than Wildcat at quarterback until it really came to the revelation after he's kicked out of school. They brought him back, and when he was basically like, I'm probably not that great of a quarterback. I'm a great athlete, a big athlete.
Right.
Play tight end. Now he's going to be a Hall of Famer, right? Like, these things happen. Like, you know, what you were great at as a youth, you might not play that in high school. What you were great at in high school, you might not play that in college. Okay. I played against a kid in college who was the best running back in our I think he was All-American, but definitely our league by far. Okay. Unbelievable. He played in New Hampshire. Like, he only weighed 180 pounds, and when I would tackle him, I was like, this guy weigh like 240. Like, I could barely bring him down. I couldn't. It was one of these freaky strength things that somebody just has, right? Like, I'm like, you know, it didn't matter that I benched 400 pounds. That didn't matter.
You guys are just freaks.
Freaks, right? Well, in the NFL, because he was only 180 pounds at 5'10", and there were guys bigger at the same speed as him, but he was a phenomenal, obviously, athlete and football player. He played in the NFL as a defensive end for 6 or 7 years in the NFL as a defensive back. Never played defensive back in college. Probably hadn't played defensive back since he was in high school. Okay? Played 6, 7 years because things change. You're good for this place at this time, and next year you might go to a higher level and you're better off over here. That's how it is. And that's the thing that has to be coached to parents. It has to be coached to coaches to be more open on these things. Like,
right.
You know, I know you think in your head, it happens to me. I do the same thing. Like, I don't see him there. You know what?
You never know.
Does it hurt to let the kid bring the ball up tomorrow? Go ahead. You know what? You have one chance. Go ahead, bring the ball up. You know what I mean? Like, go ahead. What does it hurt? He could always go back to where he is. Go ahead. All right. You want to take a drive? You want to take a few plays of quarterback? Go ahead. Take a few plays of quarterback. All right. You might be pretty good. Maybe I could use it there. All right. Now you're going to go back to the right guard, please. Okay. Thank you. All right. You know, like, that's just how it is, you know, and
I agree.
And I think it makes your teams better. But anyway, I'll let you go. We've been on a new world record for us, 242.
10 a.m. Brad. Tomorrow morning, Brad Fortney. We'll probably get him. We'll finally get him on.
The legend comes on. I saw a lot of stuff from the Tony Holler podcast.
It looked like a really good one. I'm happy he's doing another one. You know what I mean? Hopefully it'll be able to work out or whatever. But looks like they who was it? Corfus released every video that you can go and grab and buy and whatever for if you want to watch it because they put it all together. So it looked like
on
a really good
consortium site on their site or
yeah.
All right, man.
All right, buddy. Talk to you later.
All right, bye.